Welcome everybody to MogTalk, episode 164. Today is Saturday, May 4th, 2019. If you haven't seen MogTalk before, it's a show based around the Final Fantasy XIV community discussing everything from checkboat racing to savage raiding. We have a pretty important topic, I think, today. But before we get too much into it, I want to make sure everybody introduces himself so we're not just staring at the screen being kind of awkward for a moment. So to start us off, Ms., could you tell everybody who you are?
Hi everyone. I'm Ms. Mizzteq. I am a Final Fantasy streamer and content creator, I suppose. Also a real raider. I know that's crazy, but
already starting. All right, and Kerr.
Muted, sorry. Hi, I'm Kerr. I used to play and stream a lot of Final Fantasy, and I still pick it up here and there, and I keep up with the community. Probably am the oddball here today, but I'm kind of mostly here to talk about like experiences while playing the game, and then experiences outside the game.
All right, Sophie.
Hi, I'm Spofie or Sophie. They both are my name, really. I stream Final Fantasy XIV just about every night. I've been streaming for 717 days in a row now. So, yeah, we're coming on 2 years now.
Oh.
But yeah, I'm just a Final Fantasy XIV content creator of all sorts of stuff, really.
Okay, all right, and Shili.
Hi, I'm Shili. I go by Chili Bean on Twitch. I am mostly known in the Final Fantasy community from PvP, but I've basically been involved in everything since the pre-release week of A Realm Reborn. I've been playing for, what is it, like 4 or 5 years? The game's been out, whatever. It's been so long I can't keep track anymore. I used to stream PvP, but since then I've moved from just like streaming games I want to play. So I don't really stream anymore, but I used to. Frosty's very disappointed.
Rough games you want to play. All right. The one thing I'll say real quick is I noticed your audio is a bit louder than everyone else.
Is that?
Okay. Yeah, I don't know why. It was fine earlier. Just for some reason it wanted to be a little bit loud now, but just a heads up on it.
All right, I'm sorry for yelling.
It's okay. Soft yelling. Anyways, guys, today the show is about the female perspective, and it's a show that's, I think, is pretty important to talk about. There's a lot of sensitivity involved with it, but I feel like we have to break through that. And you might be thinking, why is Frosty on this show of female perspective when he's a male? It doesn't make any sense, right? And I actually had a conversation with a lot of people on the show, people not on the show, about if I should host something like this. And really the conversation came to... it always seems when we do shows like this in different various communities, we always just contain it and we're like, we'll put all the women on one show and they can talk about things amongst themselves. But this is a topic that really men need to be involved with and talk about as well. And it feels kind of weird and wrong to just say, hell, we're going to contain it over here and then not worry about it afterwards. We all have to be part of this conversation in some way. So I'm making that leap today. And maybe as awkward as I might make it today, I still believe we should be doing it. But to start the conversation off, I do want to ask pretty much a general question about why are we having this show? And I'm going to give that to Ms. to start with.
I was going to lean in a bit while you were talking and say diversity is important.
Yes.
Obviously, because I don't know, sometimes you just need that different perspective, right? But to answer your question, why is this something we need to talk about?
Right.
Hold on, let me adjust my my soapbox. Let me pull out my old lady card because I'm gonna need both for this slight rant. So it's actually not really a rant. I know I was like joking about it previously, but it's more so kind of just like an introduction to everything, including myself and also whatever's been happening. Okay, so why do we need to talk about this? What happened on Twitter?
Right.
Right. Think about the storm that you inadvertently created, right? So obviously this outrage on Twitter, if you can call it outrage, whatever, a lot of it was basically that the voices that you see up here don't have the right pedigree to discuss the experience of women in like a hardcore setting. Now, obviously I can't really speak for everyone, but what I can and will do is speak for myself. And then you guys can speak for yourselves too. But so people look at me and they'll see a content creator, a Twitch streamer, a YouTuber, which is fine. Like if you don't know who I am, a quick Google search will tell you just that, right? Now, so 2 weeks ago, you had a show with a group of male content creators, right?
Yes.
And first question I'm going to put out there into the universe is how many of those men had to face criticism of their validity to be on the show, right?
Right.
How many of them were recognized or weren't recognized as real raiders, right? None of them were, right? So you had two like truly hardcore raiders, Arthurs and Xeno on. And I think many of us can agree that they can fit that sort of ambiguous term that's been being thrown around for the past couple of days, right? Now, why don't we like pause for a second and like look at what hardcore means to these male guests, right? So we know that it's not simply just being like a world verse raider, right? Otherwise there'd be 8 hardcore players and the rest of us would be disgusting casuals, right? So we know it's not just that, right? Now, are they hardcore because they raid like 15 hours or more a day when the content hits? If you look at a lot of the recruitment posts, seemingly hardcore groups are always looking for people that have the ability and the desire to raid for like an insane or adhere to an insane raid schedule, right? And so it's like a huge qualifier, but I don't think it's really enough because there's plenty of people out there that will raid for 12 hours, be complete ass at the game, and then, you know, can't really call them hardcore, right? So if you bring into the conversation this other qualifier of, say, clear time, right? Does someone that clears Savage raiding within like the first 1 or 2 weeks, are they hardcore? What about Ultimate? Like, is clearing Ultimate, or because of the inherent difficulty of Ultimate, you could say that you basically need like a harder core schedule to be able to even progress in it, right? You could also argue that because such a tiny amount of people actually kill Ultimate, that the simple act of clearing Ultimate is enough to make you like a real raider or a hardcore raider, right? There's also even like this like hardcore raider clique on Twitter that apparently you have to be a part of, maybe. No, I'm kidding. So we can basically, what my point is, I know I'm rambling a bit, but my point is that you can go on and on and on and never really settle on that exact definition, right? But regardless of the ambiguity of the term itself, the point is, or the point that I'm trying to make is that most people, when they think of like Arthurs, they think of Xeno. No one questions, or like everyone believes in their soul that these are hardcore raiders, right? And it's because they've achieved these like hardcore results, right? Like I think we can generally agree on that, right? But then in the exact same breath, and this is where I get on my soapbox, in the same breath, people, when they think of Mizzteq, they think casual, garbage tier, not a real raider. She doesn't even do her own content. So the question I'm putting forth is my raid pedigree somehow insufficient, or is it because I'm a woman? And I know that's a kind of like a bit of a leap, or from a first glance, it might be a bit of a leap, but we can break it down just a little bit, right? So let me catch my breath. So I've cleared, so I basically cleared like Savage, every Savage tier in this game within the first 1 or 2 weeks, right before, I guess since the middle of Heavensward, when we like finally started to raid a lot. I've cleared both Ultimate encounters multiple times, you know, like even before the like eye level sync patches, which doesn't even matter, honestly. And because I don't adhere to this like hardcore schedule, you know, sometimes people call that into question, even though I achieved the same hardcore results, right? So on top of all that, I also come from like a pretty extensive, like almost 10 years of an actual hardcore raiding experience in WoW, which I think a lot of people don't really know about me. And I know I suck at math, but that's basically almost double the amount of time that some people have even hardcore rated in Final Fantasy, let alone like in their whole life or whatever. To even like add on to that, I've even gotten like Grandmaster in Overwatch. And I know this might sound like I'm just tooting my own horn, but my point is that I've managed to do that even in like some of the most toxic environments or competitive environments for females nowadays, right? And yet people that don't know me will basically look at me. The only information they have about me is provided to them by like some, I don't know, angry nerd on Reddit or something that only types middle fingers or something. And then they immediately diminish me or dismiss me, diminish me to nothing but a content creator. And then they say I have like no right to voice my experience or whatever. Now, this is like something that I think a lot of us deal with constantly. And this is something that I've personally dealt with for like 20 years. And I know this is where the old lady card comes in. So try to imagine for a second what that means. 20 years. So some people in chat are like early 20s, mid 20s. So try to imagine the entirety of your life pushing back constantly against people that are constantly telling you that you don't deserve a voice, you don't deserve a platform, you don't deserve a rate spot, all because of the gender that you identify as. And that's why we need to talk about this, right? So to tie it all back in, sorry, long ass rant, but to tie it back in, why did the Final Fantasy community Twitter explode so much these past 2 days? Why was the first instinct when looking at a list of names for a show that hasn't even aired, why is the first instinct that's not good enough? So it's fine to like see the show list, come to the show, listen to the discussion, meet all the guests, and then afterwards be like, hey, I really enjoyed the show, but your guests didn't touch on a topic that I'm really passionate about. Like that's how it should be, don't you think? That's what promotes the discussion. That's what promotes the growth, and that's great. But instead, here we have people that are like up in arms before they've seen the show, before they've met the guests, before they basically know anything about what we're going to talk about. And they are immediately settling on these assumptions that they may have, these preconceived notions about us just because we're just not good enough, right? So then I kind of have to ask, like, why does that happen, right? And tying back into that original question, it's kind of almost like there's a default mentality. And this happens for both men and women. And I think a lot of people don't realize this. They'll think, oh, I'm a girl, I can't possibly think this way. But I've seen it from men and women. So the mentality, this default mentality that I'm seeing a lot of, is that you'll look at another woman and then immediately, not even once, assume that she might have achieved something great, And that's like beyond fucked if you really think about it, right? So honestly, again, tying it back into the original questions, if we do anything today, no matter what we talk about, I feel like if we start to recognize that, yes, some of us or most of us are victim to this sort of like default mentality where women are just not good enough, we start to recognize it, we reject it, and start to push back against it, because I honestly believe like we're all way, way better than that.
Yeah. And that,
okay, so box removed.
Okay, no, that was an excellent start. And there's a lot of points that I think we can come across and we can discuss from that. But I will definitely give the floor up for anyone to talk about.
I guess what I wanted to say about why we need to talk about this is like a lot of what Mizzteq has already said is that we go through a lot of difficult situations, specifically in like gaming communities, but this pertains like a lot farther than that, but just within the scope of the conversation being like within gaming specifically. It affects our everyday interaction with the things that we do, like that most people probably don't even think about, or I don't know, I don't want to say this, but it sounds weird, but like most guys don't even think about like sometimes even feeling safe online, like the discussion of stalking, comes up, where that's like a real threat that happens, I would say once to every online. I would say that's probably true, not exaggeration.
Right.
A lot of these things are usually.
Oh, the stream's going a little bit crazy right now. I don't know if it froze up. All right, are you back? Do you hear me? Sorry.
Hi.
Yeah, I Miz got everything she needed to say in there, and then like right afterwards, it's just
like, all right, stream's over.
Yeah, afterwards. Yeah, okay, I think it's coming back now. And I said, like last show, it happened the exact same way. At the beginning, it had one. Let's just hope it doesn't keep happening. But it's funny. As soon as Shili started talking, it was like, okay, we'll start killing it right now.
No, don't kill me.
Sorry. But yeah, if you want to repeat yourself a bit there, just in case anyone didn't hear it.
Well, basically what I was getting to is like a lot of the issues that we'll probably talk about and get into are usually ignored or pushed under the rug under the guise of women being like overly dramatic or too sensitive. And so that it kind of gets, like, oh, well, you shouldn't complain about these things. You're just being like emotional, right? But it's like they're real problems. I don't think we should be made to feel ashamed for talking about them, especially like the more severe ones, like I said, like stalking and stuff like that. And then the other thing I want to say is that it's also especially important, I think, now to talk about these things because Shadowbringers coming up. There's a lot of raid groups, recruiting. There's going to be a lot of new relationships being formed with the new expansion, and I think it'll be an important discussion to have to just kind of keep these thoughts in mind, like going forward when you're, making friends with new people, like new women in your group, maybe.
Right.
Keep and these things in mind.
So something I want to bring up kind of and ask you about is something Ms. was talking about a little bit there. It almost feels a lot of the time that I see it that you as a female have to prove yourself immediately. Like there's like you don't exist until you're known for something, right?
Yeah,
until they know you.
I mean, and Ms. mentioned that happened on Twitter, and even just like the natural inclination, like I get like the whole like saying like, oh, I've reached this point Overwatch. Like it's like our natural inclination to feel the need to justify that, because if we don't say that, like we have to be able to like prove somehow that we can like survive in a competitive environment, which it is really challenging. I mean, it is something to say like you get a certain place in Overwatch because every single match you join in a game like that where people can immediately identify that you're female, they'll like have like a complete assumption about like how you're going to perform or what you should be playing or like all sorts of stuff. Even if there's like I've joined games where there'll be another girl in the match and like, oh, they're going to start fighting because they're both female, and like there's so many just like assumptions that will come up. So when it comes down to someone on Twitter saying you're not a real raider, then it becomes, okay, now I have to like whip out my resume to prove it to you. And then it gets argued. Oh, well, that's not what I define it as. And it's like the fact that you even have to do that is kind of crazy.
I feel it's kind of absurd. And I was personally pretty upset. And it's more of me just being upset that people attack my guest in any way, or it's funny, it's not like even attacking, it's like really subtle stuff, and I feel like a lot of the issues are from maybe subtle things, right? It's things that are just kind of there, and it's just we're gonna be a little passive aggressive here or there and just try to slight a little bit, and then be like, oh, that's not what I meant. Is that correct, or am I kind of off the mark there?
So I've obviously old lady card again, but I've honestly thought about this a lot, and I don't have a degree in psychology or anything like that, so prefacing everything I'm about to say with that. But sometimes I wonder if it's like not their fault. I mean, it kind of is, because at some point, eventually you just become an adult and you have to start, controlling how you treat others and stuff like that. But so sometimes I wonder if it's just, so take your average boy, man, whatever. They grow up, especially, when I was growing up, the environment that they grew up with was basically girls don't play video games. It's not womanly to play video games. It's only for boys. Like if you were a girl like me growing up, I was considered like a tomboy or whatever because I played video games. And so if you're constantly told growing up that women don't do this, and then like the few times you do see a woman or a girl try to play a video game that she has literally no experience with, obviously she's going to be bad, right? So you start to form these like opinions and perceptions that all girls suck at video games or whatever. And, for the longest time, you just believe that. And it's so ingrained in like your world that eventually that's just how you perceive everything. And then you start doing these like amazing things in video games. You get like freaking ultimate clears, you get super cool achievements, you get all the best gear, you never die, whatever. So you start doing things that obviously are respectable achievements, etc. And then you turn around and there's a girl who all your life you've been told should suck at this, right up there with you on your heels doing the exact same thing you are. And so I feel like some people who are possibly insecure about themselves or insecure about a lot of things, they might take that as almost like an attack on their achievement or their accomplishments, when instead you should both be celebrating the fact that both of you can do that, right? And so I feel like sometimes it's just the way that they have like grown up leads to that type of thinking. And obviously it's not like their fault for starting like that, but it's their fault for perpetuating that sort of like viewpoint or experiences or whatever. So I don't know. I just feel like without talking about it, they're never going to change from that. They're never going to know that, okay, that's maybe not the best way to think about something. And I don't know, like we could probably talk about hours for just that one topic alone, like where those thoughts come from. But sometimes I wonder if it's just, I think it's getting better slowly as time goes on and as, you know, women are more accepted to do it. But I don't know, like
I think it's like branched off in so many different directions at this point too, because like I feel like it turns into not just, oh, there's there's plenty of women playing video games these days, plenty of women that you'll find in all sorts of environments, but then it becomes like there's so many preconceived notions about like how women are supposed to look. Like if you're a content creator, you know, there's like this like weird balance between like, oh, like if they're wearing like a low cut shirt, like they're not really gaming, they're just like being sexy on the internet. And there's just a lot of like preconceived notions that people will like apply, like expect out of women that they don't expect out of the same like guy who's playing a game or streaming. And it's hard to meet those expectations, and the fact that they exist is pretty like overwhelming because it's constantly changing too. Like it's like you have to be like, if you're not attractive enough, like people will criticize that. If you're like too attractive, if you're wearing too much makeup, people will criticize. Like it's like there's such a weird balance that people like expect out of like women in gaming.
That kind of makes us like really hypercritical of ourselves
and each other.
Yeah.
You see it on Twitter constantly, or even Reddit, anything like that, where there's going to be like one group of girls that believes this, and they'll attack the other group of girls that, you know, just wants to live their life or whatever. And I don't know if it's like tribalism or anything, but it's a very, very bad like us versus them mentality. And I don't know, like we have to start realizing that people are allowed to do what they want. You know, they're allowed to pursue whatever makes them happy, without it being like an affront on your own life or whatever. So I don't know.
Yeah. Go off of that topic. I was actually thinking of one of the comments that I saw on Twitter, like going back to the whole Twitter thing. It wasn't directly in the thread of comments that stemmed from like your original post, but it was just something that I saw that someone had said offhandedly. It was just while I was scrolling through, so I don't have like an exact quote verbatim, but it was just, they said like, that Frosty had picked a bunch of soft faces to talk about this.
I have that tweet. Do you want
me? Oh, really?
I don't think I saw that.
I don't know if I saw that either.
If you have it, then yeah, go ahead.
So again, we're not doing this to call anyone out specifically or to like shame people for what they say or what they believe in, because you know
I definitely think that this whole topic is a lot to do with the way that we have been almost trained subconsciously to act toward one another. So I don't think that there's any like malicious intent at all from this, but I saw it and I was like, you know, oh, that makes me feel kind of bad about myself. You know, like
so
I didn't use my face.
It was like a pretty good thread that this person made. So they basically are talking about, you know, their own sort of experiences with how they see women in gaming, which is perfectly perfect. The problem is the very last tweet kind of takes away from everything that they said. So I don't know if you want me to read the whole thing or whatever, or just the last one, but I'll just read the very last one. So they make 100, like not 100, but they make 4 great points, you know, 4 great tweets, etc., whatever. But then they say, and then you have the chance to expose this or talk about it. You instead pick some soft faces to represent the problem. And this is in direct reply to Frosty announcing that we all are on the stream or whatever, the show. And so what is crazy is that this is one woman who is calling other women soft faces. You've basically taken us and diminished us to nothing more than our physical attributes or qualities, whatever. And it kind of makes this, I don't know, it kind of makes me think that you think that we have nothing like to offer except pretty faces. There's no way that we could possibly form an intelligent thought or have an appropriate conversation or anything, or contribute to anything, right? So it really sucks and it fucking hurts to see one woman say that about another woman, intentionally or not. Like, I understand that a lot of us deal with a lot of internalized misogyny. We've been like basically beat down ever since forever. There's, I don't know, like there's literally never a time that I've ever had a supportive man growing up saying, oh, you know, you shouldn't be treated like that. This is wrong. So nowadays, obviously it's a little better, but back then it got so bad that the internalized misogyny was so bad, you didn't even notice that you were doing it. And so to see, I don't know, like it kind of sucks to literally be told that I'm nothing more than just a soft face, that I have literally nothing to contribute. It goes back to what I said at the beginning, right? Where people make these like blanket assumptions about us based on how we look or the fact that, you know, we're women, and then just assume that we have nothing to offer. And that is terrible. Like,
sorry, go ahead.
No, go, Kerr. Yeah.
No, I think it also, like, sometimes that tends to cut the deepest, because when we're raised, we're taught that all we are is a pretty face. And so when they say something that kind of insults your appearance, that hurts a lot as well. Because I remember when I first started streaming with Frosty, there was another like female in the chat, and she basically said I look like a boy, and I was like, what the fuck?
I actually get that all the time too. People will come in my chat and say
I
that
get it too.
I don't understand.
Apparently it's a common thing.
I take it as a compliment. I mean, come on.
I guess.
It is very awkward. I when I see that stuff, it's weird. My background is a little bit weird. Like I can be all psychological about this and everything else and say my dad wasn't around for most of my life, and I grew up with strong female characters in my whole experience growing up, and then I always looked to other people and other families of people, and they never did anything that sounded sexist or horrible or anything else. And I don't know if that's just luck or just it became common. It's like, this stuff's wrong. It's obvious it's wrong. And so when you see it, I don't know how this stuff develops, but it does. It does develop out there. And personally, from my experience, I usually don't stay in conversations with these people past the conversation, but I'll get in a conversation. It's really normal, and then they'll say something like, "Oh, just a chick. It's just a, you know, that's a chick thing that they do," or "Oh, you know, it's because she has boobs," or whatever else. And it's just a conversation. I'm like, I feel pretty awkward right now, and I finished that conversation, and I probably won't talk to that person again, just because it's hard for me to take them seriously anymore. And I think personally on my side, people are going to be stupid and ignorant, and they're going to not know things, and they have to learn. But there is a certain point where you just have to be accountable for what you're doing, and you have to realize, maybe I am saying things that I shouldn't say, or maybe something that is a joke does have some weight to maybe not make that kind of joke and make other people feel bad. It's weird, and so I'm always struggling to figure out why this stuff exists, and I feel like there's a lot of other people who may be struggling to figure it out, and so then we become blind to the issues that female players in video games are having, or female players, or female in general in workplaces everywhere else, because we don't even think it exists almost, and we have to like force ourselves kind of in those situations to hear it out. And that's why I'm trying to listen today, because the most I see is from what Kerr tells me, and then I understand this stuff happens. I'm like, yeah, this is kind of gross. I don't know why it's happening anymore, and I now take it a lot more seriously than I did in the past. But I think there's still tons of people who don't take the issue seriously.
Yeah, there's a lot of I guess segueing it back to Final Fantasy 14, there's a lot of common, and I guess just MMOs in general and rating and stuff, there's a lot of common jokes that are passed around when it comes to like women in rating. I mean, like, I think the most common one that comes up is the whole like, oh, all girls only play healers, you know, and then like if you are playing a healer, that's somehow like diminished to like, well, you're not really actually rating, you know, you're just being carried by the other people who are there with, you know, like there's little jokes like that I think people kind of just like think like, oh, it's just funny, but like it adds to like a really like a bigger problem, you know?
Yeah, I think that whole statement can just be summarized as a way of just saying like, oh, girls just like what you're saying. They want to have it easy. They want to do the easy thing, because it's like that term could be used outside of MMOs too. Like we were talking about Overwatch. It's like, oh, girls only play Mercy, right? It's like it's easy or whatever. But what I think is kind of ironic about that, especially in terms of Final Fantasy, is like healing in Final Fantasy is freaking hard when you're doing it at like a high level, right? Not only do you have to know every single thing that you're doing down to like I don't know what I'm trying to say, but like you have to know every fight like very well in order to have your rotation set up, your cooldown set up, so that everyone else can do what they're doing well. Like you have to synergize with your tanks so that you're not overlapping cooldowns and stuff. So basically, like playing healer, you need to extensively know everything about all the other roles in order to like play it well, right? So it's like the irony of it is like, oh, girls only play healers. It's like, okay, well, if that's true, then they're like playing one of the harder jobs in like the raid group. So
very difficult. Kerr played healer for our raid for quite a while, and she's shown me lots of frustrated voices. I've heard lots of frustrated statements because it's difficult, and I tried doing it. You remember when we she hated me. She was I was playing Scholar, and we were doing this I think in A7, and I was doing Scholar and she was doing White Mage, and I messed up all the time, and I felt really hard. I don't think I've ever thought healing was too easy, but it makes sense why a lot of people like it, because it feels like it's a huge challenge when you're doing it and you want to put yourself through it, and like it made me respect anyone who plays healer that much more.
So basically, we're just playing what we want. I mean, if we took like a really small sample size of the people on the cast right now, half of us play healer and half of us don't.
Right? Well, I mean, Miz plays healer, but just kind of like and all. Well, no, Miz, I think you play it pretty seriously too now, don't you?
No, it's my alt that plays healer.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
My main character is still a tank, obviously. So that's like Kerr said, there's half of us that don't play a healer. I have actually like a story about that. It's kind of, I don't know, it's kind of sparked a memory, which I don't know if it'll really fit, but I can try to tell it if you'd like. So
please
gather around, kids.
Okay.
But basically, so when I played WoW, when I first started seriously like raiding, like when I sat down and said, okay, this is something I'm going to do, I played a tank. So I played a feral druid or bear tank, whatever, guardian as it's called now. And I went from being like garbage tier, like obviously as you know, most people start when they play video games, to actually getting to the point where I was like in a top 100 guild tanking heroic Lich King, you know? So I ended up with this like pretty decent experience for the time or whatever. But I wasn't raiding with anyone that I knew. I wanted to raid, well, actually the guild that I was in ended up falling apart. So I started looking for other guilds during that time. And what I wanted to do is to join Braddock, my partner, in his guild. And, you know, they were looking for a tank, they were looking for people, whatever. So the biggest issue though, that the guild that I was coming from, who was already doing like heroic Lich King, I already had not way more, but I had more experience coming in to that guild when I applied than that guild had currently was out or whatever. Okay, I'm losing my words. But and so they kind of like dicked me around a bit and ended up rejecting me as a tank. And so I was like, okay, you know, no worries. Like I was hurt obviously because I was like, oh, I was thinking I could play with Braddock, no problem. So then as soon as I turned around and was like, okay, cool. I'm going to go and try to apply to these guilds that are a little bit closer to my skill level, etc. They were like, oh, well, we wouldn't want to lose you. Like, we recognize that you're a great player. We think you'd be awesome, but do you think you could heal for us? And so at the time I was like, oh, you know, like this is a way to like play with Braddock. So it's like kind of like this is like me never having like really healed before. So coming in with full experiences on a tank and then being told to heal. At the time, obviously I accepted just so that we could all raid together. You know, I rocked it out of the park. I was good. I ended up like actually enjoying it. But there are some times like moments where it doesn't sit with me well. Like sometimes I'll think back on it And even when I was like prepping for the show today, Braddock brought it up and was like, you know, you've had all these instances that you kind of brushed off that have these sort of like stereotypical connotations of, oh, girls can only be healers, girls can only do the easy jobs or whatever. And I kind of never really noticed just how bad it was, if that makes sense, until like I quit WoW and I was like, okay, this makes no sense. And so when I came back to Final Fantasy, I literally like grew from that experience or whatever. And that's why I play what I want now. Like I basically said, all right, I'm going to play this MMO. I don't know if I'll like it, but no matter what, I'm always going to play what I want. And I'm going to find people to play with that don't force me into whatever bullshit stereotype they want me to be or whatever. So I don't know, like it's weird that they were that insistent on me playing a healer, even though I came in with more experience as a tank, you know?
No.
It's funny that you bring up raiding in Heroic Lich King, because you sparked another story for me, because I'm the same as you. I started playing WoW in vanilla, but I was only 9, so I wasn't very good at raiding when I was 9. But you know, by the time Wrath of the Lich King came around and I was a little bit older, I started to try and, you know, get into like an actual raid group. Before that, I was in a guild with like my dad or something, and I finally branched off. I was like, Dad, I'm leaving to go sprout my wings and be a real raider. So I ended up joining a 10-man group, and we got to Lich King, and it was very hard. And one of the things at the time is I played a priest, but I played holy, but I was very adamant with my group with telling them, like, I think discipline is better. Like, it feels better when I play discipline, which if people that have never played WoW or don't play WoW, it's like the difference between holy and discipline is basically the difference between like white mage and scholar. It's like big burst healing versus like shields, you know? So I thought that discipline, so shield healing, was really strong. It felt easier to me. I felt like I could do more, and I expressed that to my group, and they were just like, "Oh, well, if you like pull up recount or whatever people used back then, you see it," and they'd be like, "Oh, well, you're like not doing any healing." But that was before the people who made recount added damage absorbed by shields into their healing statistic. So as soon as they added that, then all of a sudden Discipline Priest had like the highest healing done. And like it wasn't until that happened that they finally believed me. I was like, it's like I could have been doing this whole time and things would have been so much easier if you just believe me. Like, I'm doing it. Why don't you trust me? I know I'm 13, but please.
Oh man, yeah, I remember those days. That was the peak of WoW for me, was Lich King. Absolutely.
Yeah, there's a lot of weird like things that are stereotypes outside of gaming that get applied to gaming in different ways, like the whole women are nurturing, so they must want to be healers. Like women lack competitive spirit and women are bad at leadership. Like all these like sort of like stereotypes and I guess qualities that get attributed to men and not women often find their ways to come out in different ways in gaming. And I've seen it happen with raid groups. I mean, I've been parts of raid groups where there's been, you know, girls leading the raid group, and if they say something that rubs someone the wrong way, they'll be like, oh, this person is just argumentative, and they'll say it's because they're a girl. And that they're somehow worse at leading because of it. And it's pretty hard to, there's a lot of like dynamics in raid groups too that people like don't really actively talk about because they kind of just like happen and like you move on and don't really say anything about it because it happens in like a personal environment, but like they happen all the time. And I'm sure, I don't know, I've experienced them. I mean, I've experienced groups where it's been like, oh, we don't want to add another girl to the group because we're scared like you're going to get into an argument with her. And it's just like, it's so ridiculous. It's absolutely so ridiculous. But it's those sort of like assumptions happen, and it's hard to, it makes it harder. I've actually taken a step back from reading. Like I used to hardcore. I guess not hardcore, probably not by the definition of a real hardcore. I don't know, mid-core. I don't know. I used to raid a lot, and now I'm more of a casual raider because it was a lot. So
I'm going back, sorry, to what Sophie just said with how women should be nurturing. They should play healer. I mean, the reason I played healer was because I was tired of dying and I wanted to keep myself alive, and I thought the other person sucked. So I don't know if that kind of matches up.
Yeah, I don't really think that the reason anyone decides to play anything really matters. Like, even if, so I would say that I'm of the demographic that has always been attracted to healer because of those stereotypical reasons. Like, oh, I love all the pretty spell effects, and like, oh, scholar has fairies, and I'm like, I'm all into that. And I think that's fine. I think it's fine to have both sides of the thing. It's like, I like it because, yeah, it's super girly. Are you gonna get mad at me for that? It's like, I was like, so it's like, there's both things. I just think that the thing that's wrong with the statement, like girls only play healers, is that it's used as like a derogatory thing.
Yeah.
Right. So that's where the problem is.
Like bad.
Yeah.
So I kind of want to ask a question a little bit away from this topic, but just to give people some background about your maybe experience in getting into video games and everything else, because it's kind of different from everyone. But just maybe it'll be kind of helpful for understanding point of views and everything. Kerr, would you like to start off and kind of say what your background was getting into playing video games?
So I've always kind of had video games in my house. Like growing up, we had the NES. I used to play a lot with my brother. For example, when we got the N64, we'd play so much of that, and like I was so competitive that like when I lost, I'd hit my brother with the controller. But
and so that's kind of interesting because a lot of people say, oh, well, women are not as competitive, but Kerr is very competitive when I play video games with her. Very, very competitive. And I feel like it's just such a weird thing to say.
Maybe that we're taught to hold back a lot of those feelings too. Because speaking about how when you get mad at video games, I have like 12,000 memories of me getting mad at a video game and my mother being like, if you're going to yell at that video game, or if you're going to get mad and you're going to let it like overrule your life, you're not going to play that game. So I would get like basically grounded if I reacted with these like manly emotions or whatever. So I think over time, I kind of just learned to, while I was super competitive, I wouldn't exactly like broadcast it as much or like, you know, try to like go out of my way to be like, I'm going to beat you at this or whatever. Instead, I kind of just like learned to let my progress, my actions, my achievements, my little badge by your name that says you're grandmaster or whatever, you know, let that speak for its your whatever, instead of actively saying, oh yeah, like I'm gonna own you so hard, dude, you know, like
uber noob. How'd you get into video games? Was it just something that you grew up with as well?
Basically, yeah. So my parents were both programmers growing up, and so I do not have a memory where I don't have a computer in my house. And I actually didn't play consoles at all because for whatever reasons, my parents thought that video games were the devil when it was like on a console, but it didn't count when it was on a computer because computers were like superior. So my parents, OG PC master racers. And so I literally have just always like played on a computer. Like I come from a really strange childhood where I wasn't really like allowed outside. And so to like supplement what I did for fun, I would literally just play on the computer. So literally since I was like 5 or 6, I've had a computer, and ever since I've had internet, I've played games. So that's basically where it comes from.
Shili, I'll ask you the same question too. I already know you started playing, but at least by WoW when you were 9 years old.
Yeah, well, I'd say my story is probably pretty similar to everyone else's. Is just like grew up playing games. My grandpa taught me how to build a computer when I was really young. There's a bunch of pictures of me when I was little, like where he'd have me on his lap and he was teaching me how to like type and stuff. And so yeah. Oh.
Can you guys hear the dog? I don't know if you can or not.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. That's like my dog Frosty. He has night terrors. So like when he's sleeping, he'll just start screaming and wailing and stuff in the middle of the night. Or not in the middle of the night, middle of the day, just whenever he's sleeping. And I think this is my problem, because when I had him when I was younger, I discovered he'd howl at certain things, and I would have a squeaker, and I would just squeak it a lot to make him howl, because I thought that was kind of cool. But now I think he dreams of me squeaking that squeaker, and then he just starts howling.
Oh no, not again, not the squeaker.
But yeah, no, he has these things where he just starts howling in the middle of the night. I feel bad every time I hear it. Thank you, Kerr. Yeah. Anyway, Shili.
But yeah, just growing up, being around computers a lot, playing games. My first little, I guess, would you call it a console? My first handheld console was the Game Boy, not the Game Boy Color, the Game Boy, the old
original
one.
Yeah, the brick, yeah.
The brick one. But it's funny. One of my most fond childhood memories is when I used to go to a daycare after school. And I would be there for a long time because my mom at the time was working at a restaurant like really late. So my grandpa would actually have to come pick me up after he was done with work, which was still really late. So most of the time I was usually one of the only kids left. And the daycare that I went to had a Nintendo 64, and they had Smash Brothers, and I love Smash Brothers, but I could only ever play it at the daycare when everyone else was gone, because all the stupid boys would hog it. No, I'm just kidding. Not stupid.
Oh, okay, but they would. Yeah.
But they would. Yeah, they would hog it, and I would never get to play until they left. But they were there really late one day, and I was just like sitting there watching. They never let me have a turn, and they could tell I was getting mad, and they were like, "All right, you can play, and we'll let you play once, and you can keep playing if you win." And I was like, okay. So I locked in Kirby and up B spammed them, and I won. And then my grandpa showed up, and he showed up like right when this happened, and he was like, "All right, it's time to go, baby Chili Bean." And I was like, okay, but I just won against these guys. They're gonna let me play Smash Brothers. Can I please stay? So he let me stay for like another 30 minutes so I could play Smash Brothers. So awesome. My first victory in my adolescence
of overcoming the boys.
Overcoming the silly boys.
Yeah. Same question for you, Sophie.
Mine's kind of similar.
Oh yeah.
I don't know. I've played games since I like remember I could. I mean, nobody in my family was into gaming. Not my parents, not my sister. Nobody really wanted to. So I just kind of, I don't know, got what I could. I usually would find like one game at like Costco and like sneak it into the cart on sale and just like play that for like a year, because that was like the only game. And my parents were like, please go outside, like do other things. But I don't know. I just wanted to play like RuneScape and Toontown. So
Toontown.
So
that's the OG MMO, okay?
Yeah. So I guess one of the main reasons I kind of want to talk about it, I assumed a lot of these experiences were kind of similar in some regard. You guys grew up around it. This is the exact same experience guys have. This is a very common, hey, I'm going to play video games. I play video games with my brother, right? I mean, I think these are things that everyone has these experiences. And we all grow up playing games the same way. But for some reason, during that life cycle of growing up and playing video games, you guys have this whole different perspective of how people are treating you and everything else. And so it's so weird because it's not like this really different. It's not like you have to be, your gender affects how you play a video game, right? It's the same thing. And so it's so strange when we start seeing people make all these assumptions and everything else. But I mean, you guys could have told me completely different stories and I would have been offbeat on that, but I don't know.
Well, you raise a good point, because we all start almost the same way, right? We all have like an interest in it that develops into a passion, and it becomes something that we like. That's what we like to do, right? So it's strange that, I don't know, like it's weird that at a young age it doesn't really matter, but then somewhere down the line, at some point, we branch off, and somehow, somewhere, it becomes that, you know, girls are stupid or whatever,
right?
Cooties, and you can't play video games with us anymore or whatever. So I don't know, like that's maybe something to like look into, because I've honestly never really thought about how men generally start the same way that I have started, you know, like I don't know,
I do have a follow-up question with that. When did you start noticing that you were being treated differently?
Right away.
Right away? Yeah.
I took some notes down with these like topics, and my answer for that was since forever. That was like the only thing I could think of. It was just like, yeah, since like the beginning, since Baby Bean.
So it was never like something like you guys were playing video games and then eventually you're like, this is kind of weird that people are treating me a little bit different than this other dude over here or anything. It's just always like, oh yeah, it's obvious that these guys are treating me differently.
I'd say it's more subtle usually. It's not something that I thought about while I was thinking about this before going to bed last night was I thought to myself, do you ever just get so used to being treated differently that you can't even differentiate what being treated differently is?
Yep.
Like that's kind of what I thought about it really hard. I was like, I can't really define what it is exactly that's different. And I don't know if that's because like the things are so subtle or just because I'm so used to it that I can't even like differentiate what's normal and what's not normal. Like, you know.
So that's exactly what I wrote down in my notes as well. Like for me, I didn't notice I was treated differently in games until I played MMOs. Because for the longest time, you thought it was normal. Where it's like, oh, you have to play the girl character because you're a girl. It's like, okay, at least I'm playing the game. But in other aspects, I'm sure we've all known our entire lives because whether it's our teachers, our parents, our friends, it's just like, no, you can't do this one thing because you're a girl.
So, I mean, that's kind of a really sad statement. I'm not gonna lie, that's pretty depressing. But I mean, that's reality. I guess is that you're just used to it now, right? Kind of just you don't think about it as much. You just people do that, and that really made me feel a little bit depressed here.
Oh, sorry. I don't think we're like used to it. It still sticks out. I mean,
like there are instances that stick out more than others, like cat calling, right? And I would say like this is not just like real life cat calling, but like in-game cat calling. So say you join some pug in Final Fantasy and they're like, oh, voice chat required. You join the voice chat and you're just like, hello friends, let's have a good time raiding today. And they're like, oh, the girl, oh, she sounds hot, you know, like you're so used to it that you're just like, you expect it. Like I don't know about you guys, but like I expect that whenever I go into like a voice chat with strangers. Like I'm just like, okay, get ready for like this initial thing and then it'll blow over and then things can be normal. Right? Like that's kind of what I mean, that like behavior like that is just so normal that you don't even really think about it.
Yeah, it's like weird when that doesn't happen.
Yeah. That's a good point. Is like when it doesn't happen, you're like, oh, I didn't have to mentally prepare for this.
Go through the event, of like people just making some sort of commentary on like your voice.
Yeah, it's usually the voice.
Everything.
A follow up with, are you single? And yeah, just ridiculous.
So to add on to that, maybe bring a little bit of the hardcore perspective into this. So when I used to apply for guilds, well, I say that like I applied for guilds all the time, but the one time, or the first time rather, that I applied to like a truly hardcore guild in WoW, I went through their application process. I spoke to them through text initially. Everything was great. Like, you know, they were like one of the few guilds I found that didn't have a gender form to fill out or whatever. So I was like, oh, that's kind of cool. Like I've never seen that before. So I went through all the steps. Basically, I talked to the recruiting officer through text. I had to transfer. So basically we wanted to talk first, make sure that everything was like worth the transfer, etc. And so I remember thinking, because they would ask me like kind of gender neutral questions, and they'd be like, based off of my experience, that was like gender neutral, basically. They'd be like, oh, cool, like I see you're an officer, I see you've done like her at Lich King, etc. Do you know so and so? I used to raid with them at whatever. So you get like this like comfortable feeling where you're like, wow, these people seem pretty cool. And then you go on to the next step where you actually have to enter the trial period, you go into Vent or TeamSpeak, whatever, Mumble, and you say, as soon as you log in, and it pings people, telling people that you're there, first time, and they go, hey man, what's up? How's it going? And so a lot of the times I'd be like, great to be here. Hope everyone's doing well. And then there's that pause, right? And depending on the maturity of the guild or the people in TeamSpeak, whatever, that pause is either like short or it's like uncomfortably fucking long, right? And the problem is it's, regardless of how short or long it is, there's still the pause, and you get used to it. And then you know exactly what they're thinking in that pause, where they're like, oh shit, is that a girl? Or is that like a super young boy? Like is this bad? Like, holy shit, is she gonna like start seducing my officers and like fracture our guild? And like, you kind of get used to the train of thought. And a lot of the times you're kind of having to like remind them that you've already gone through the process of proving yourself and, listing your CV or whatever, and that they've accepted you to the point, and then all of a sudden you speak up and suddenly there's like a seed of doubt. And for men, I think that seed of doubt doesn't start to grow until they've had a chance to like actually play and prove themselves. And then you can start thinking that they're shit or whatever. But for girls, as soon as you open your mouth, as soon as you say hello, that seed of doubt is like, oh, like, did she lie to get in here? Like, was she carried to this? Like, I know she says that she's cleared this, but is that true? Like, was it her boyfriend?
Send pictures to in this group to get in?
Exactly. Like, whose dick did she suck, to be very crude? Whose dick did she suck to be in this guild? Like, it's terrible. And it happens all the time, and you kind of get used to it. And you kind of have to put up with it because you're wanting to raid at that level. And that's kind of just like how it is, And so for the longest time, I would just kind of like do it and like, water off a duck's back it and kind of ignore it and never really like say, hey, like I've already like proven myself to you. Here's my like top 10 log. And yet you're still doubting me. I never once spoke up about that, right? I kind of just resorted to like self-deprecating humor where I was like, oh yeah, haha, don't worry, I totally got carried, or blah, blah, blah. Why am I even in a tank? Like, I should be healing, like you resort to stuff like that to try to fit in. Yep. And eventually you kind of like brainwash yourself. And once you've made it or whatever, that's when like the issues arise, where you start looking at other girls, especially other girls that are trying to, apply to the same guild. Once you feel like you've made it or whatever, you tend to have some like pretty fucked up, like pretty deep internalized misogyny, where you turn around and you're like, oh no, she can't play.
They tell you, because even once you've made it, even when you make it past the issues, then you become different than other girls.
Exactly. Yep. You are not like the other girls.
Not like the other
asinine thing. And so yeah, like I've experienced that personally myself. Like I've talked about this on my stream times, where I talk about past of when I was this like toxic bitch Warcraft, where I couldn't help it. I would instantly see another girl or hear another girl in TeamSpeak for the first time or applying, and instantly I would be overly critical of her skill, of her whatever, even though she had like the precursors to apply to the guild in the first place. And so that sucks. And I can't, there's no excuse for my behavior back then, right? And so I think it's important to sort of embrace, and I know like Bach on Twitter was saying that he went through the same thing as a recruitment officer, where he would, without really thinking about it, just instantly deny people because it said female or whatever. And I did that too. So I really wanted to bring that up, because it's not just a boy thing. It's not a man thing. Me as a woman was not immune to that sort of like toxic perception of other women. And so I think that's really important to bring up, because a lot of people will say, oh, I'm immune to that type of thought because I am of the, I'm a girl or whatever. So I don't know. I know I'm talking a lot about WoW or whatever because I don't hardcore raid in Final Fantasy, right? But I do have that same experience that a lot of people or a lot of girls that are trying to break into that hardcore raiding scene or whatever in Final Fantasy, they'll probably go through the same thing. Like it hasn't really changed in the past like 15 years or whatever. So I don't know, like it sucks and we're all to blame. Like us kind of letting people do this to us and letting it be the norm and the default mindset, whatever, like I was talking about before, we're now at this point where you kind of just put up with it to be, like one of the boys. And I don't know. I think the best thing that we can do is just recognize that this is happening and then like push back whenever we can.
Yeah.
I mean, I can tell you personally from my side, being in TeamSpeak and then listening to it when I was younger, a lot younger, and I did raids and stuff in WoW, or I did other things back at the beginning of it all. If I heard, like, I was sitting there and then I'd hear a female voice come on there, I was like, whoa, this is cool, this is amazing, and it is a shock. And you, it's because you're not expecting it. I think a lot of guys that are in there are just used to talking to other guys, and it just felt abnormal. And so it was like, wow, that's really cool. And then, like, especially like single guys, they'll be like, I like her voice. I mean, you guys, you just have to listen to Arthas talk for like 10 seconds, and you can see what a teenage boy thinks most of the time. To be honest with you,
I think another default is also seeing like a screen name.
Yeah.
That's gender neutral for the most part.
Oh,
And a lot of the times, like, people won't talk or type girly or manly or whatever. So for me, I used to have this thing where I would just automatically assume whoever I was talking to was a man, right?
Mhm.
And I would get shocked too when they would correct me and be like, oh, I'm actually a girl. And I'd be like, oh. And then, like, you know, that like internalized misogyny would creep up and I'd be a bitch. But I think that for the longest time, like even on Twitch, I think before, I don't know, I try not to do it as much now because I'm aware of it, but I'll see a name that's like brand new in the chat, and based on what it like, even if it seems like a girly name, I sometimes still assume that it's a dude, which is completely wrong, right? Especially nowadays that most, I don't know, like what the Final Fantasy gaming community is like, mostly the majority is women now. You know, that was one of the stats or something. And so for me to still think, tiny little girl Lalafell is actually a dude, I don't know, like, I think that's an issue.
Well, it's not uncommon that's the case either anymore, right? And it's not like a bad thing or anything, but it's just, I think there's just a lot of you have in your head, hey, this is things you aren't thinking, all right, I'm about to hear him, is it going to be a male or female voice? That's not what you're thinking. You just already is planted in your brain, I'm assuming it's a male voice that's going to come on, unless if something was there to give me a sign, like a name or them saying it in chat. For example, if I'm like, hey dude, and they're like, I'm not a dude. Do you guys do that often? If people say that to you in text or anything, say, hey dude, or what's up man, and you just like, you correct it? No,
I used to, I think.
There's a lot of issues that people have with when you, like, I think that people, like, if you say, oh no, I'm actually a girl, people think that you're saying that
to get attention.
It's like somehow worse. Exactly.
Yeah.
So you just go with it and be like, oh man, it was really fun playing with you. Like, oh, we should play together sometime. Like, maybe next time we can hang out in voice. And you're just like, yep. You don't say like, oh, by the way, I'm girl, because then they'll be like, oh, why'd you have to point that out? Why is that so important? You're just like, I just wanted you to know so that I don't mislead you. Like, you know?
Right. It's
weird that we all said that we just kind of go with it, right?
Yeah.
I will also say I did have someone come to me and tell me that, and I never knew they were a female player, but they pretty much said, I never tell anyone. I don't get on voice. I don't do anything. I just play the game and let people assume what they want to, because my life is that much better because of it. And I wonder how many female players are out there who do that, who have a mic. They're not going to use it. They just don't want to get involved with that whole situation because they don't want to deal with it.
Yeah, I definitely don't get on Discord on Party Finder because I just don't want to.
That's true.
I get really scared of joining Discords with people that I don't already know, or if I'm not joining a Discord with like a friend that I can kind of have to feel comfortable. I think that's probably a thing that a lot of women feel, but I don't think that's also like a women exclusive feeling. I think everyone feels comfortable or uncomfortable going into, like, you know, talking with strangers, right? That's normal. But the thing that I think is different is you go into that situation by yourself, and I always get that kind of butterfly feeling, because it's like, oh no, like, is this going to be good or is this going to be really bad and annoying and I'm just going to want to leave, right? Like, I don't think guys think that in terms of
having it being caused by them being a guy, you know, like that. It can be caused by maybe the like the raid environment being annoying or whatever, and like you want to leave, or like all these people suck or whatever, but you don't have to worry about it from the point that like if I go in here and I talk, are they just gonna like keep harping on the fact that I'm a girl and it's gonna be annoying? Like nothing to even do with the game at all. It's just about you. Like that kind of situation, I think, is what is unique, as opposed to just like everyone experiencing uncomfortability with strangers.
You kind of put that out there, and I think, Shili, you were on stage at FanFest, right? And how did that turn out after the fact?
Okay, well, I'm gonna apologize beforehand if I start to like get emotional, because it's actually something that affected me a lot. Like, I would say even now, it still affects me. Like, it has affected the way I look at how I approach playing, like, and specifically Feast. Like, that was something that I used to, when I started streaming, like, I only stream Feast. I stopped doing that because I felt like a lot of pressure as, like, things were getting, say, like, more serious, you know, memes, Feast isn't an esport, right? You know, but like, you know, it was getting more serious in relation to like what was going on. You know, there was an official tournament coming up. We were working really hard to like win the chance to even like be in it. We did that, and then we get to Vegas. People thought we were gonna win. I would say like a majority of people thought that we were. And then when we lost at the last second, a lot of the criticism that I personally got was that they shouldn't have played you. Like, why did they choose to pick their girl teammate? Like, that's why they lost, you know? And that hurt a lot, you know? It's like you work really hard to achieve something and everything gets put down, even though you made it so far. It's like whether we won or not, like that was like the main criticism that I got. Nothing about like the game. It was just like, oh well, of course they lost.
Right.
It's a big part of why I get frustrated when people say things like, why aren't there women in esports? And it's because they're not good enough. You know, like what you experienced is such a good example of what anyone is going to experience going into that sort of space, like as a female, like any sort of esports, I feel like. And it's just like it's really hard to deal with. Like it's emotionally like debilitating to deal with that sort of unfair criticism and like the expectations that you're up against as opposed to someone who just is a different gender, you know?
It's like what the biggest thing about it is that it's, and I'm sure that a lot of women in a similar position, like in Final Fantasy, maybe, you know, maybe a girl in like a world race group or something, like they're trying really hard for that world first kill, but they don't get it. And maybe they get some of that same kind of criticism. Like it hurts. It hurts a lot, where it's just like you don't, like you feel like you did your best and that's the only thing that people like want to bring up. It's like, you know, it's like I tried. And the thing that's hard about it and the thing that's difficult is it makes you afraid to try again, because it's like, well, what's the point of even trying if like it doesn't even matter what you achieve.
Right. So it's
I think
like
a lot of people forget that like you being up on stage at FanFest already is an amazing achievement. And a lot of people, and I see this happen to like the dudes of the Final Fantasy community as well. So it's not just a girl thing. I think it's just like I don't know if it's like jealousy or something, but people
absolutely
lose sight of what you've actually done to get there, you know? And then instead they'll just latch on something as easy as, you know, blaming your gender for your loss or whatever. And then it's a way for them to like not accept the fact that you were there in the first place, that you're already in a world prog position, you're already in like top PvP, like literally invited by Square Enix to come to FanFest to do that. Like for people to not realize that how amazing that is to begin with is like asinine, right? Like what is wrong with people that they choose to be negative and like focus on being complete dicks instead of like embracing and, you know, coming up to you and saying, holy shit, I'm so like proud to have a girl up there. You know, like it kind of is sad that I don't know if people stood up for you or anything, but I feel like.
Yeah. I mean, people stood up for me, but I would say that's more like friends, right? It's like the general outside consensus though was very negative, I would say.
Yeah.
Yeah, Shili
That's
definitely deserved to be
shameful.
there 100%, and she's an awesome and amazing player at Feast. And so it's kind of frustrating to see that stuff, because I've talked to her a bit before Feast, and she was part of the PvP community, and we're a small community. And so it's kind of like we're a family, and we support each other to a point here, and it's just... I think most people were like, oh, that's really stupid. No, she's a good player. But you have about 1,000 internet trolls who don't know anything, who are going to assume, oh, well, yeah, oh, girl, haha, LOL. I said my point. And then it's frustrating. Because, I mean, I see this from a different point of view, right? And so I'm seeing this to people, like if I hear anything like this happens to Kerr, I get pissed off, right? I get really angry because this has happened to people that I actually care about, and it doesn't make me feel good. And I think a lot of guys out there need to make sure that you understand that it's important that you say it doesn't make you feel good, because it's fucked up. But yeah, again, Shili, 100%, you're an awesome player. You did a great job, and it's a lot of pressure being on stage. I gotta say, I felt really scared and nervous on stage, and I'm sure I looked like an idiot quite a few times.
Could hear you screaming.
Oh, you're good? That's right. You're so close.
Yeah. Well, it's actually kind of funny is when Frosty and I first like met each other, like online, I guess, you actually thought I was a Japanese alt. Like I was playing on an alt that I had. So like I play on Primal, but I have an alt on Aether, and Frosty's Aether. So I was just like playing on Aether for fun, and I got against him, and he goes in the Discord. He's like, "Is there this like new Japanese alt I keep getting played against?" I was like, "No, but thanks for the compliment. It's like the best compliment I've ever gotten."
It's like, I don't know who this is. What's going on? I know everyone. I don't know this person. But yeah, being on Primal and me being on Aether, and
yeah, it was pretty funny. I was like, oh, heck yeah, I'm JP now.
You're JP now. Yeah. But sorry, I lost my train of thought there as well, because that was a little bit emotional. I didn't mean to get too emotional there, Shirley. I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. It's nice. We can have like a group hug with our voices.
Yeah. Okay, so I guess we can go into a couple more details here about just how, because I mean, we are kind of on that topic of easy harassment, right? Just general harassment of like, hey, it's a girl, oh, well, screw her and everything else. It doesn't matter. You know, what Miz was saying earlier, I'm making sure I'm saying what Miz said earlier so I don't feel bad about saying it. It's like, whose dick did she suck, right? And
I'm glad I could open that door for you.
Thank you. I appreciate it. But I mean, what's some of the stuff that you guys see on a normal business day of being a streamer or playing Final Fantasy 14 or whatever else it may be, that's just really just out of place? And I guess I'll ask you, Sophie, first, if that's okay. What's something that you're just tired of seeing?
Like with streaming in particular, I think the thing that came to mind, I mean, there's a lot.
Okay, it's fine.
There's a lot. But I think the thing that first comes to mind is I don't like the assumption that girls have when it comes to like guys assuming that they can make comments on appearance or have some like person. There's like I've noticed, like, as a streamer and like talking to other streamers, that there just seems to be like less boundaries for people when they're talking to female streamers, and like they don't seem to want to respect those boundaries as much, and they want to know about your personal life, and they feel like they're entitled to know about your personal life, and they're entitled to like comment on your appearance and and judge like how good you are at a game and like all these things. I know it's just trolls, I guess. But I guess one example I can cite, and this goes like into the streaming world much more than the Final Fantasy 14 world. But there was all that drama about the streamer who didn't reveal that she was married. And it honestly boggled my mind that like all the people who were like all up in they were all upset about that, felt like they were entitled to know that this woman was married, because if she was not available to them, like she needs to make that known. And that like everything that revolves around that is absolutely flabbergasting to me. That's probably the thing that like just, I don't know, I shake my head at the most.
Okay. Kerr, is there any kind of experience you can talk about a little bit about harassment in general that you see it and it just kind of sets you off a little bit?
Yeah, all the time. Okay. I mean, personally, like even my work life is just like, so somebody who has the same experience, exact same experience, same age as me, everything's equal, right? Equal playing field, equal position. They always give it to the male counterpart first. And then for me, they're going to give me like menial administrative tasks or just something stupid like fold this curtain. And it's like ridiculous. It's like I could do what he's doing as well. We have the same qualifications. It's just like, it's annoying.
The stories that you've told me have been kind of ridiculous too. Like, you'll have coworkers be like, "Oh, can you decorate this room? You're better at it because you're a girl." Or hey, can you? Or the people who pick up your boxes when you're 5 feet away from where you need to take it.
Oh my god, this happens all the time. I'm like carrying like a Costco box of like water bottles, and like I've already carried it like 10 feet from my car. I'm at the door, and then they're like holding the door open, like, "Here, let me get that for you." I'm like, I walked 10 feet. I'm sure I can get to the last like 2 feet. Like I'm fine. I don't need you.
Right.
Just like, yeah.
It's kind of weird. And it's funny that we're talking about this too, because it's weird how it's all transferable from day-to-day life to video games. And so it's like, well, people might be a little bit defensive about these subjects and stuff. It's because it seems like it almost never stops, even when you stop playing video games, right?
Yeah, and I think the most annoying part is that like if you talk about it, you're instantly flagged as combative or like feminist or something negative, so you have to stay silent.
This is a very good point that I'd like to talk about. Is
the
act of talking about it is like bad.
Yeah. So I'll let you know. I have this firm belief right now, and I'm sure it's existed at some point. Doing this show, I will be known as some social justice warrior for the rest of my life to a certain group of people who will say, "Oh, well, Frosty's got to do all this stuff and tell me I can't say these horrible things." And I don't care, really, to be honest with you. I don't care that I do, because it's like one of those tests, right? You see someone say that, and you're like, I don't need them. But I mean, it's sad that it does jump to that, because it becomes such an easy thing to talk about, or easy thing to just jump to and say, "Oh, this guy, we can't take him seriously because he's just trying to start some social justice thing that he's doing. He's some white knight." And this is all from the male side of it. Sorry. And I feel like this happens a lot with males when they talk about things like equal quality stuff and like just anything in this direction. Other guys will start calling them white knights and making them feel horrible for doing it. And I feel there is a point to where some people do take it too far. There are people I would really say, hey, this is unnecessarily white knightish or whatever you want to say about it. But we're so afraid that we're going to fall into that category that we just don't do anything.
I could say the reverse is also true. People are afraid to offend others. Like I saw this happen on Twitter 2 days ago, where we were having, or I mean, I thought we were having what seemed to be like a pretty decent and appropriate conversation where there wasn't really a lot of like, I don't know, anything insulting happening, but people would choose to stop the discussion or the debate because they felt like if they said anything, they would be considered a woman hater or whatever, you know? And I feel like that is just as destructive because you're ending the conversation before it's ready to be ended. You're basically using all this, like this fear, this like, I don't know, all these excuses really to just not deal with it because it's easier to just not think about it and let it go, push it under the rug, whatever. And so I think that's a problem because no one should feel uncomfortable to the point that they don't bring up something to discuss. Like everyone's opinion is valid, you know, like you have the right to express yourself however you need to. And for you to start to think that, oh, maybe I should just shut up and deal with it. Like, I mean, that's kind of why we're in this problem to begin with, because girls and women and even men that are trying to stand up for these girls just shut up and deal with it and we get nowhere, right? So I don't know, like I think people need to stop being afraid of having debates and having discussion because especially in this culture where everyone's like super easily offended, everything's like super shocking and everyone's like, oh God, I gotta clutch my pearls or whatever. And I have to be careful about what I say. Otherwise I'm dragged through the coals. It's ridiculous. Like I think people are allowed to be wrong and then get better. Like there shouldn't be this fear of, you know, saying the wrong thing as long as you can grow from it and stuff. Because like I said, like 10 years ago, I was awful. I was terrible. Like I am ashamed of who I was 10 years ago. But I think it was necessary for me to like go to such extremes until I finally looked at myself and was like, okay, that was bad. This is awful. Why am I doing this? Like I had to hit literal rock bottom of how I was treating people for me to get better, you know? So I feel like if I had just stopped the conversation and I stopped being introspective or stopped listening to people talk to me about it, I never would have gotten to where I am now. And I feel like if I stop now, who knows, you know, where I'm going to stop or whatever. But I think it's really important that people aren't afraid of conversations like this because I know it is scary, especially in this day and age. Like you say one wrong word and everyone's like, you know, dragging you through Twitter saying that you're racist or sexist or whatever, when you're really not, like you just made a mistake or something. And so to teach people that something like a type of behavior is wrong or whatever is so much more important than just attacking them for having that opinion or doing whatever. So I don't know. I just wish we could all be friends.
I've always found white knighting to be such a weird term because it's weirdly gender specific to females. Like when someone is I guess just going along mindlessly with what a girl says, that's white knighting, right? But like people go along mindlessly with what dudes say too. Like it's sort of like an influencer thing, I guess, in this age, that there will always be people who look up to someone or like a celebrity or streamer or content creator and just follow whatever they say mindlessly. Like that happens. That's a genderless issue. But with women, it's white knighting, and with men, I don't know. We don't have a term for it, I guess.
Yes,
because we just call them suck ups, I guess. I don't know.
It's
I don't
just
know.
a thing, you know? Weird. But we have to have a term that we just throw at people when it's with girls. So it's weird. I don't know.
But I think the term white knight, like the term knight itself, insinuates that the man is the strong knight and the woman is the damsel in distress that needs help, right? So I think the term itself inherently is just like a problem to begin with.
It is.
And
so people are afraid. I know, especially a lot of males, and I've heard this quite a few times, is like, that's a scary topic to talk about because you can go in there and mess everything up and say the wrong thing. And that's why a lot of males are afraid to have these conversations. They're like, I'm going to say the wrong thing and it's going to turn out horribly for me and I'm going to have people hate me. If I'm quiet, I don't have no risk. There's nothing that could go wrong with that, right? And so we have to, and it's hard because rational people will eventually understand, oh, he made a mistake with what he was saying. Oh, it was, you know, it's fine. And we all grow and we're all ignorant. And I think I don't like to say a lot of braggy things about myself, but I think I'm an intelligent person, right? I have some intelligence to me, and I think there are good qualities about me. But the biggest thing is that I'm human, and I will fuck up. I am going to screw something up. And the important part is me realizing I screw up and understanding how to make that into a better situation later on. And I feel like people are just so afraid of crossing that line that we start to stay stagnant with the issues that we have.
But people are afraid because of this ridiculous like outrage culture that we have, right?
They are.
So it's not just you learning from your experiences, it's also everyone else around you. Like everyone has this responsibility to not crazily overreact when something like that happens. Like it's okay to be emotional at first, but you got to like tone it down a bit and like look at something rationally and then, you know, form your opinion. But I think a lot of people will react and then continue to react instead of being like, oh, okay, maybe I understand where he's coming from. You know, like it's almost like we've lost this like empathy that maybe we used to have a bit more of, where you could understand someone else's viewpoint without necessarily agreeing with them. And instead now it's like, if you say something wrong by accident or whatever, you apparently can't ever grow from that. You know, like people will hold to you to whatever you said, who knows when. Right. So I don't know. I feel like, yes, people make mistakes, but it's also the responsibility of everyone else to allow you to make that mistake and then allow you to grow from it instead of like stagnating that growth, because then you're not getting anywhere.
I kind of want to hit on it a little bit more here because I feel like, and it happens a lot within Twitter and in Twitch and within the game, and people have prerogatives, right? And so they'll start using these things as weapons. And like you said, if someone will say something wrong, and they will twist it as much as they can to make themselves better in some way, or like they're make themselves on top of the situation. And it happens with everything. And I feel it's really depressing to see that because you change the situation into something that makes you feel better about yourself. And I see it every single day. I mean, we saw it on Twitter too. I think one of the responses to me was it automatically said, "Hey, if you don't respect what these people are saying, you're putting down the female voice." And it was such a weird equation to make after everything that was said. Yeah.
Yeah, blanket statements like that are just dangerous regardless. And also people assuming that people will think that way if they do say anything. That I definitely noticed that too. I mean, it's this big feeling of like I'm scared to say anything because people are going to assume that I don't respect women's or you know, that definitely comes up a lot. But it's kind of just like finding the middle to like the extremes, because like there's so much like going, like people not only will go to one extreme but then assume that anybody who disagrees with them must be the other extreme, whereas usually most of the time we just need to like meet in the middle somewhere and be able to like have a dialogue and like talk about these things and not just go between like, oh, you're a crazy feminist, SJW, whatever, just because you say something, you have an issue with something, you know? It's the assumptions can be crazy.
And I think it's something that, and honestly, I can't overly be critical of it because I think everybody does it in some way without realizing it. Like, I think I can say probably if I look back at some things I say, maybe even just a short time ago, I may have said something and I was just really frustrated, and I said it in a way I probably shouldn't have because I was just really mad. And a lot of stuff starts to happen subconsciously, and then we feel later on we have to justify ourselves and we have to continue on that when you really don't. You just have to step back and say, hey, I realize I made a mistake. This is what I really meant. Maybe that's the best thing to do, is to try to make people not afraid of these conversations and be on top of it.
Well, that's what I think is really important about just doing this, like what we're doing right now is just talking, is like I know you said I'm not supposed to look at chat, or that I shouldn't, but I have a little bit. It's like,
Okay.
some people saying like, okay, well, what's the solution? Like, okay, what do we do? And it's like, I think that's kind of what we're doing now, right? It's just talking and pertaining all this back to like Final Fantasy and just this issue within the game we all love and we all play together, and how we can use this in like these situations in Final Fantasy is just that, like, just talking. Like, if you get a girl in your group and things are awkward or whatever, it's like, just talk. It's like, oh, like, is something wrong? Like, what can we do? Like, whatever, or even from the girl side too, like, just for girls to feel more confident to be open if something's like bothering them, or if they think that something's not okay, and that it's also not okay to tell that girl or person or whoever, it's like, oh, well, you're just being ridiculous, over dramatic, like, this is not an issue. It's like, well, if they have an issue with it, then it's probably an issue and you should take them seriously, because we're all people. I think that's the main thing, is like, we're all people. We all just want to be treated like people, and I think that's the main point.
Just by the way, I usually get all the alerts and everything turned off, but I missed one, so there's a very loud noise there from an alert just a second ago. So I'm going to work on turning that off real quick, just so people don't abuse that. But to kind of go into maybe the next point here, I mean, we've been talking a lot about harassment and kind of different points of different perspectives, I guess, from the male side and the female side. I'm being scared to kind of talk about these things because, it's a scary situation. You could feel bad. Someone will try to make you feel bad in the end. I want to focus a little bit on streaming a bit here. And so when you guys started streaming, you have the typical people who come into your chat and I'm sure are saying, "Ooh, girl," and they say all the cringy, weird things that they can. How has that experience of seeing that kind of shaped maybe what you think of people?
I just think it's funny. Like, whenever something like that happens, it's just like, they just look so dumb. I don't know. I don't want to be like mean, but like, okay, so the other day, example, I'm playing, well, I just finished, but I was playing Sekiro and I was doing a boss and like, oh, I died. Like, God forbid I die in a Dark Souls freaking game, right? Like, and someone came in and was like, "Oh, typical gamer girl." Like, what does that even mean? Like, what is it? Like, what? And so I just, like, I think things like that are funny. Things I don't think are funny is when things are like said that are really gross, and it's just like, why? Super against TOS things, I don't really know why it happens. I just ignore it. I laugh. I don't know if that's the appropriate response. I don't know.
Anyone else?
I'm just thinking of like examples.
Yeah, I know. I'm like because it's a lot,
Yeah.
We have a lot of experiences. I think streamers in general have a lot of experiences from all different. There's just trolls. There's trolls who just come in and say dumb things. That it doesn't matter as much because it's just you ban them. At least for me, it's much more so when someone who has been around my stream for a while comes in and says something that just throws me off, like that's just so like gross or like sexist or whatever, just like not okay, that like just completely throws me off. I mean, I've had experiences where people will come in and just make like completely not necessary comments on appearance. I mean, I know that's not just like a girly problem. I know people, but girls really get a lot of comments on their appearances. Like if you don't wear makeup one day, I've had people come in and be like, "You look sick, you look tired, you look whatever." Like everyone just wants to say something. And then a day where you're wearing more makeup, I've had people who have been members of my community come in for a while and be like, "I prefer how you look with less makeup." And it's like, I didn't ask you. Thank you. but and then it becomes like a whole like thing, and all of a sudden I have people arguing in my chat about like whether I should be wearing makeup or not, and like I'm just trying to play this game. And it's that coupled with people who, I mean, we talked about stalking a little bit. I mean, it's not unusual to have people like really cross the line in really scary ways. And it's not, I mean, I've heard it from other female streamers as well, like some really, really, really disgusting, like invasive things that people will do to try to get into your personal life and to like live out some weird fantasy. Like it's really overwhelming, all of it, sometimes. But I guess that's the overview of my experiences.
Has told me the other day we were talking about how people came in and it was just so weird that people were talking about your appearance all the time.
Yeah, there's like one day I was on your stream and I was wearing blush. It was very light. I don't usually wear heavy makeup because I'm just that type of person, and I never grew up wearing makeup anyway, so not very used to putting it on. And so I had that on, and then somebody's like, "Is Kerr wearing blush today? It looks good." And I was like, why did I have to comment about that? Because it's like such a small thing, and like for a guy, you wouldn't be like, "Oh, did he put a hair gel in his hair today? It looks good."
I did.
Oh, it looks good.
Yeah, it doesn't really happen that often, though. It's a weird issue, but I think we kind of it kind of points to what people generalize as audiences for versus male streamers versus female streamers. A lot of comments I hear is that people think that people watch female streamers because they want to date them. They watch male streamers because they want to be their buddy. They want to be their bro. Do you feel that holds like any ground at all?
I feel like I kind of squashed that behavior early, if that makes sense. Because you can kind of tell when people are there to like scope out their prospects, I guess. I don't know. It's gross saying that. Like, especially new people, if the first thing that they say is, "Are you married?" First off, what does that matter? Like, who cares? I'm playing Final Fantasy. Like, are you playing a game or and it's kind of like, to start a conversation like that is a little strange, because I don't think that would be the first question that you ask when you first meet someone in real life, right? Like, you're gonna ask them, like, you know, who are they? What are their interests? What do they do for work, etc. And then maybe you'll ask, sure, like, do you have a partner, etc. And for someone to just like pop into stream and be like, "Hey, beautiful, are you married?" Like, what if I say no? Are you gonna like hang around and like try to find, you know, like, am I gonna pick you out of like the however many that, you know, like, I just don't understand the mentality. So I think like my chat is actually pretty good at like kind of handling in a way so it's, you're not like instantly just banning them or whatever. You're kind of like teaching them a lesson, but not like negatively. A lot of the times, if someone comes in with, "Hey, beautiful," someone will respond with, "Why, thanks. I thought I looked great today," or whatever. So try to divert the comment or the discussion away from what I look like, and, you know, try to make it seem, or try to show them that in chat, you know, that's not really what we're here for. You know, we're not here to like discuss Mizzteq's lipstick color of the day. We're here to, you know, make fun of her for forgetting to pop hollow ground or whatever. So I think for me, or at least for my stream, I try to keep that from going too far from the very beginning. And so the people that stick around or manage to like get through that filter, I don't know if they're there because they want to date me.
Right.
Actually, they want to date Pasta. This little girl right here, of course. But I don't know. Like, I understand I see the bro concept a lot with some male streamers. But I think it sometimes also applies to females as well, where people just want to feel included. They want to feel like they are there talking to their friend. You know, they're just hanging out with friends, which is fine. Like, that's probably one of the best reasons to stream, honestly. But yeah, I feel like men, I don't know. I don't think I've ever seen a guy like get people start hitting on him or whatever in chat, or asking if he's married, asking what his status is or whatever. That's weird, but I don't know.
No one asked me any of that stuff. No, actually once or twice. I think I actually remember when I first started streaming a long time, and Kerr was there with me, and what was that weird comment that someone made about my testicles? I can't remember what it was. It was really... It was
apparently
really,
stuck with you.
It stuck with me because it stood out. Because it was like one of the first times I was streaming, and I was like, I don't really know how I'm supposed to take this. I guess this is just the internet, right? This is just what people do. It's part of it.
Your testicles though? What?
I don't know. I think it was just to be weird and be off. And
were they visible? Like,
no. No, the stream wouldn't be here today if
were you pandering to your audience, Frosty?
Oh, was I pandering? Was I going and doing a low cut or like low cut shorts that were like things were poking out and stuff? No, I wasn't. I mean, you don't really. It's funny. What's that guy, Ricardo? You guys know who I'm talking about? Not Brian Ricardo, like the PvPer, but like Ricardo as in the meme that runs around. He does the dancing and everything.
In the Speedo? Yeah,
in the Speedo. He was streaming shirtless recently. I don't know how long his stream was going, but he was just sitting there streaming like that. And I was like, I wonder if that's working. I think it is, because that's what the guy's known for, right? But no, most of that stuff is around, I think, aimed towards female streamers. And I think that's the biggest stigma, right? We kind of have to talk about that, is the titty streamers, right? The ones that are out there, and that's all, they're out there to show their body, and they're out there to gain viewers because of that. And this is another difficult topic to talk about, but I would like to hear your opinion on if you guys feel like people who do that, if they're in the right or wrong by any way.
I'm scared to start. Wait, Sophie, did you want to say something?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I personally don't think it affects anything. I mean, I see women and guys all the time say, oh, women who stream with their boobies out make it so that other women can't be respected. And it's like, no, the guys who aren't respecting women are making it so women can't be respected. Like, I don't care, like, I don't know. There's all sorts of weird streams out there. Like, there's people doing weird things, and the majority of, I mean, yeah, I'm sure there's people out there who are just streaming like purely with their looks in mind, and like that's the whole point of their stream. But like, that's not the majority of them. Like, that's like the outlier. There are some of those. But the majority of time, it's just people like seeing a girl in a tank top and being like, oh my gosh, your breasts are too exposed. You must not be a real gamer. And like, it's ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous, in my opinion. I don't think.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think that anyone who decides to show like more skin or has cleavage, like, God forbid, they just have a body, like, and they've decided to wear a shirt that isn't like up here, then I don't think that affects anything either. I think the main thing with streaming and people who maybe have the point of view where it's like, oh, well, they're ruining it for like other girls that want to get into streaming. I think that the mindset that you should have is not to care what anyone else is doing at all. Like, it's about what you're doing, like what you want to do. And if that is the kind of direction you want to go in, do it. Like, who cares? Like, if the people come in and don't like it, then that's not for them. And I think another main thing that people overlook when talking about this too is that, like, Twitch, it's, you know, you build your own thing and you have your audience, but it's still, I would say, a consumer-based situation, right? Like, so people will come to you if you're doing something they like. You don't just like make people watch you. You don't make that happen. Other people have to come watch you because they want to. And so girls that are like titty streamers or whatever, they have the audience that wants to watch them. So if you like get rid of them, then where are all those guys gonna go? They're gonna go harass you or like people who aren't doing that. It's like, so you should be happy that they're being contained in a place that they want to be. It's like, and a place that the girl streaming wants them to be too. It's like they have their own audience. Let them have it. It's like
Yeah.
it shouldn't affect anyone else. It shouldn't, and it's dumb.
Okay.
Yeah.
Ms. Kerr, do you want to say anything on it?
I love boobs. Bring on more titty streamers.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, right.
I watched a lot of like ever since they expanded the creative section where they like broke it up into categories. Like they have a section that's like for body art and makeup, and I watch a lot of those. Like because it went for me like I watch a lot of makeup YouTube channels, and then all of a sudden it started happening on Twitch. I'm like, that's great. I love that. Like I'll watch that, but then you have it's literally a body art section, and women are doing art on their body, and that's like an issue. It's like, but it's a category on Twitch. It's like that's what they're supposed to be doing, and they're doing it in that category. Like if you have a problem with it, just don't watch it. It's like I think it's great.
I think people fall into the trap of when they see a so-called titty streamer, I don't know if they realize this, but they're doing the same thing that we've spoken about before, where they go into a stream, see boobs or whatever, see cleavage, etc. Who cares? They see an attractive female, and instantly there's the judgment. Before she said anything, before you've actually like spent time in her stream to figure out what the stream is about, they are just like, oh, she only has 3,000 viewers because of her tits. Again, you are diminishing a human being into nothing more than like mammary glands, and that's not right. Like people are going to do what they want. They're going to express themselves how they want, and every single person has the right to do that. And for you to like come on in with the internet police and be like, excuse me, miss, that's just a little bit too much nip. Like, where do you live that do you say that to people on the street? Like, do you go to work, and if someone's wearing like a low cut top, are you like, nope?
Nope.
Nope.
Like, people don't really do that in real life. So it's asinine that they do it on stream. But of course, I feel like a lot of these so-called titty streamers have personalities. They have something that makes people come back. And I know a lot of people would just argue that it's the tits and that's it. But that's just like a lame ass excuse. It's easy for them to believe that because it makes them feel better about themselves. They're like, oh yeah, my stream's not taking off because I don't have boobs. And it's just an excuse. A lot of the time, like I've seen plenty of female streamers that have attractive bodies, but their like personality is the worst thing ever, or they're like very specifically like horrible people. People see that, right? Like, and they don't last very long, right? I feel like the ones that have lost, they bring something more than you see on the surface. And I think people forget that they're not just like, a piece of meat or whatever. But I don't know. I feel like the people that blame all the world's problems on titty streamers have other issues that they need to address first before, worrying about some boobs.
I do have one devil's advocate question to add to that. I just want to ask, so right now a lot of really young girls, like 12-year-old girls, are kind of getting into the world of social media and streaming and doing things like that. Do you feel like any of that is causing issues with young girls who might be seeking attention somewhere on the internet?
Are you saying that they are more inclined to perhaps do inappropriate things because they see other women doing it?
Right, because they see that it gets attention.
I mean, you'd have to like set up like an actual study for the correct answer there. But I feel like a lot of that is just the way society is becoming more and more accepting of certain things. Like, for example, I feel like nudes, for just the sake of the argument, like 20 years ago, you got your nudes on the internet, your life was over, like it was a huge thing. And now people release their nudes on purpose and like send dick pics all the time. And it's like a completely different outlook on how people view their bodies and sharing their bodies with other people. So I feel like for the most part, I don't know if it would affect them negatively. But honestly, a lot of that stuff is like, where are the parents in this case for girls that are this young? Like, I think you as a parent who's raising a child in this day and age, you have to have an idea of what you want your kids to see. And if there's something like if you're not paying attention to what your kid is watching on the internet, that is on the parent. You know, like I don't think it's the blame of the Twitch streamer or the blame of Twitch itself that that content is available or whatever. But if you are a parent and you're worried about, you know, your kids seeing everything and turning into who knows what, that's on you to like stop that. And then
yeah, I mean, it's also just about like, I mean, that stuff has always been out there, whether it was on a Twitch stream or a, you know, whatever pornography people find in whatever avenue. Like that stuff is always out there, you know. It's not like the booby streamers are like now bringing it to light. This is the first time kids have seen boobs before 18, you know. So I don't know. I think that's a lot more on conversation, and I think like I think in general, yeah, society is just becoming more sex positive, and just being able to discuss these things in a healthy manner is hopefully something that parents can do. Yeah.
Okay. Excellent. That's really all I got for that. I do want to get into some more parts about streaming here, because there's one comment that was made to me, and I guess I'll direct this over to Kerr. So one thing was said that females seem to have to do a lot more work for their stream to get viewers overall than males do, like production wise and everything else to bring people in. Do you feel that holds any ground?
It's hard to say because I don't know what the males are doing. Maybe they're doing the same, but I do know, like, again, going back to appearances, we do have to make sure like our hair isn't like all over the place. We can't just like roll out of bed and start streaming. Put a little bit of makeup, look presentable. That does take a longer time for us because there's more things to do, but other than setup, I think that's more of a question for everyone else.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Sophie, do you have an opinion on that?
I don't think it's true. I think that there's sometimes I think that there's a general feeling oftentimes that women will get more viewers because they're women, and I think that that feeling is oftentimes misplaced, because people assume that someone who is going to click on someone's stream based on their gender is going to actually be retained for that reason, and it's usually not the case. I wouldn't, I don't think it really leans in either direction when it comes to like actually like retaining viewers.
Okay.
Yeah, I think like I guess the amount of production effort you put in your stream is all just kind of like the type of atmosphere you want to set, because there's plenty of streams that I've seen that have been really successful where they don't have any like layout, overlay, whatever, like it's very laid back, and they're successful. I think it all just depends on how you want to present yourself. It's like if you want to have like all these things, that's like your own prerogative, and I think what really will keep people around is like you, right? Because that's why we watch streams, is to watch the person play games. But to go off what Sophie said with like the stigma that just being a girl makes it easier to get viewers, is I actually think it's almost the opposite, because it's like, yeah, you might have an easier time getting that initial click, but like she was saying, that person's probably just clicking on you to see if you're hot or not, and then they're going to leave, right? It's like, if that's the reason that they're clicking, they're probably going to leave in the next 2 seconds. Like, they're not going to stay. And so I feel like you almost have to work harder to prove that you're worth watching. Is, you know, I don't know if that makes sense.
No, I mean, I see all the top streamers, they're male, right?
Yeah.
The highest level of streaming usually turns out to be a male streamer. And so I can't make as much sense of that. Mizzteq, do you have anything to add to it?
So like you said, if you check like most viewed or top 50 most viewed on like Social Blade or something on Twitch, they're basically all men. Like, I mean, it's a little skewed because it's like the League of Legends channel. I don't know how you count that. But you know what I mean? Like the actual single streamers in that huge like most viewed, well, they're all they're all men. And so you could kind of argue that a lot of those men have been streaming for like 7 years, 8 years. And so they're literally like the OGs. And so the reason they have, all these audiences is because of that. But at the same time, I don't know. I know that there's a lot of women that have been streaming for like 5+ years, like 6, 7, maybe even, and they don't really have the same level of audience. And again, this is maybe like the demographic that watches Twitch might just be predominantly male or whatever. But if we want to bring it back to like the Final Fantasy category, think of like the top male streamers like Happy Pharaohs, Tate, Zeno, Arthur's, Momo, like all of them have probably like 200 to 300 to almost 1,000 views sometimes, right? And then I think even like when you look at the female side of things, even though there's like pasta, even though there's like probably physically more female streamers in the Final Fantasy category, our views are like significantly less than like the top dudes or whatever, right? So I don't know exactly what causes that. I don't know if it's the game. I don't know if it's like the amount of effort that we all put in, because it's really hard to say. Twitch is such like a fickle beast that you can't really pinpoint specific elements to people's streams and say, oh, this is the reason you're successful or this or that or whatever, right? But I think in general, at least personally from my own experience, it has always seemed like men get more views or they retain more views. And I don't want to say it's because they're taken more seriously when it comes to gaming in general, but maybe that's what it is. Like people will come into my stream and like, I don't know, they'll see me like die in like the 2 seconds that they come visit stream. They'll see me die instantly. And then like my FF logs or whatever, my parser says that I did like 1200 DPS and they're like, oh, she's shit. I'm gonna go watch Happy or whatever, right? So I think maybe men get the benefit of the doubt to stay in stream longer, to actually like feel out who they are, feel out like what kind of play style they are or whatever. And then for us, well, at least for me, I don't know if it's for the same for you guys, but for me, it's like if I don't immediately prove to someone that I am like worth their time, I don't retain that viewership. And so my viewer or my numbers are never as high as some of the other streamers, right? So I don't know, like I said, it's really hard to pinpoint one thing specifically, but overall it does seem like men, even in Final Fantasy, they always seem to have more viewers and retain more viewers. And I don't know.
Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, go ahead.
I feel like it's kind of like a weird topic because on one hand, I see it as kind of almost, it's not really, it's like a kind of a non-issue, right? Because kind of going back to what I said about it being like Twitch is a very consumer-based platform. Like people are going to go to what they want to watch. So it's like I was saying, it's like you can't make people watch you, and whatever reasons people have for like watching a guy or watching a girl, I think it's best that stays like organic, right? Like we don't want to start some revolt and like force people that like watching guys to be like, come watch me because you should be, I don't know. I kind of feel like it's not really an issue in that sense, but what I think is just more noticeable and what might be debatable is that being able to retain viewership argument is like, I do think that has some ground to stand on, is that I definitely do feel more pressure to be like, oh, if my numbers go a little bit higher, it's like, oh, what can I do like right now to prove that I actually know what I'm doing?
Mm-hmm. And by the way, everybody, we have a little bit of time for questions here, so I probably hit a few of them. If you have any questions at all, I just posted a link in the chat. Feel free to click on that and you guys can submit a question. As long as it makes sense, I will probably ask it. I guess there was a lot of topics on the document, by the way, and we kind of hit those at various different points or anything. Throughout a lot of things that we said, is there anything that you guys have like itching? You're like, oh, I wish we would have made that a little bit more clear, or you missed it, or we missed it, or anything like that? Oh, I'm doing a good job then. Amazing, absolutely great. I do want to know, maybe do you guys have any questions for other people out there, like basically opinions of Chad or anyone else of what they think about certain topics within the female perspective? I just made that up too, so I'm sorry if I'm throwing you guys off.
Can you say that again?
Do you have any questions you'd like to ask about
to
chat or people on the show? Anyone? Me, if you want to ask me a question too.
I feel like we've talked about a lot and kind of learned a lot about what we all think. So it's kind of hard to think of like more things to add.
Yeah. We hit it really well. I'm going to be honest. I thought we were going to like hit this this topic here and not make it through most of our points. Like we were going to hit one thing, like we'd probably be talking about Twitter drama all day. We just keep talking about that throughout the entire show, but we did really good for aiming for that 2-hour show. But let me go ahead. We do have some questions coming in. Okay. The very relatable question here, which we can ask. What qualifies a female Final Fantasy XIV raider in your opinion? I've been raiding for 5 years on every Savage content, and although I'm not achieving world first, I thought I was a hardcore raider, but now I'm not sure. What do you guys think?
I think it all depends on, I think for me, what I think is being hardcore is the mindset. So like if you're really determined and you can take criticism and you want to improve, I think that anyone that has that kind of mentality is hardcore, in my opinion. Like it doesn't matter like if you cleared all the content in the first week or you play 20 hours a day. I think that just that mindset qualifies you, in my opinion.
Yeah, I don't know. The label gets convoluted a lot. I mean, at the end of the day, the hardcore, midcore, casual thing was just terminology that was used to recruit people and not, you know, have a difference in mindset, you know, like, oh, well, maybe like different people are taking it more seriously. But when you actually use it to like define a person, it's a little more complicated. I mean, at the end of the day, if you're rating, you're rating. And I think it gets really funky when you start arguing what makes a real raider.
I think a big issue with that too is that by defining a certain group of people as harder, especially from the female perspective, you're kind of, I don't know, creating this divide that doesn't need to be there really, because as a girl, me applying to, like, there was a story on Twitter of a girl that was applying to a midcore, like not really that crazy hardcore group, and she was rejected because there's another girl. There would have been drama is what they quoted. And so I feel like regardless of who or how serious you are about rating or whatever, you're going to experience the same obstacles, like no matter what, because of your gender. So I've completely forgot my point. It kind of just slipped away. What was I talking about?
It was, you were talking about your comment on Twitter. Yeah.
So instead of just accepting that girls in general have a harder time entering raid groups, entering more serious raid groups because they themselves are not taken seriously, to kind of pull on that and say, oh, you don't have hardcore ladies or whatever on your thing to voice what it's really like for us hardcore people. And it's kind of like a weird flex that doesn't necessarily need to be there, if that makes sense. Like your experience, because you somehow raid more or accomplish more or whatever, doesn't somehow become more important than the girl who's trying to enter a midcore team and is getting rejected for the same sexist reasons. You know what I mean? Like, I don't really think hardcore aspect, yes, you probably will, you know, have or come across these sexist attitudes a lot more in a hardcore setting, but you're not really going to, it's not going to be different, if that makes sense. So like maybe the quality or the quantity of times that you have to put up with that bullshit is more, but you're still going through the same thing. And so to suddenly separate yourself from, you know, your fellow female friends or whatever and say that somehow your experience is better or more important than theirs, again, you're kind of doing the same thing where you're creating and perpetuating that us versus them mentality that men are doing to us already. So there's no reason for women to do it to each other, if that makes sense. So I don't know. I feel I would be interested in knowing what the person in chat that asked that question, like what their schedule is like, or what they consider. Like, if you thought you were hardcore and now all of a sudden because of this you don't know anymore, like, first off, why does it matter? And second, it's kind of funny that like Buck was saying that he doesn't consider himself hardcore when like 99.9% of the Final Fantasy community looks at someone like Buck and says, oh yeah, hands down hardcore.
Right.
So to me, it's really funny that people perceive themselves in all sorts of different ways. And it kind of just boils down to, does that shit even matter? You know, like, it doesn't, honestly. When we're talking about these issues, yes, sometimes it might be like more or less, but I think it doesn't really affect how we treat each other. You know, like we're all still kind of going through the same thing.
Okay. One quick just statement against, or not against, but after that is there's a belief, and this is why this question was asked, that women aren't pushing themselves. They asked, why aren't women pushing their limits in competitive play like World Prog or Parses? The number of females are increasing in the game, but barely any females are up there getting that world first. The one thing that's really odd about that statement, if I remember correctly, I could be completely wrong, but I think, was it Yuka? No, it wasn't Yuka. It was one of the raid fights, and it's been over a year now, where one of the members was a female player, and they got world first.
I think it was a JP group, right?
Was it JP? Yeah, it's been so long now. I have to go back and look everything up. But it's a weird statement because I don't think that's the case. I think women push themselves, but I don't think it's. I don't know. Do you guys think there's a disproportionate amount there? Like people, like women just generally don't push themselves?
I don't think it's disproportionate because if you think about the number of people that raid at that level, that's tiny already. Like, that's a tiny amount or tiny population to begin with. And so even with Final Fantasy XIV having like, I don't know if it's like 50-50 or like 60-40 female population, you're still taking a slice of the community that is so tiny. Because how many people do you know, especially since I think the average age demographic of the game is like, you know, mid to 20s to like a little bit older than, I don't know, that might be wrong, but most people can't afford, or like they don't have the time, the ability to raid at the hours required for world first stuff. So again, you're like further limiting who can even play to begin with at that level. And it's not that girls can't raid at that level. I think it's just that the amount of people or the number of people, regardless of gender, is so tiny. Like, people that can actually take the time off work, people that can physically have the endurance to last 20 plus hours and maintain that focus. That's a very small amount of people like to begin with, right? So I think it's proportional to see so few women in those top tier groups because it's just fucking hard. Like, human beings they're not built to raid for 25 hours a day to get world first clears. You know, it's very stressful on your body. And so, I don't know, to push yourself to those limits, it's kind of like athletes and stuff. Like, are you going to complain about that there's not enough, like, I don't know, let's say women bodybuilders or something like that, you know, like the women that go for it and like pursue that, there's going to be a handful of them or whatever, and they can reach the same levels as those men. But I think in general, like, to begin with, there's just a tiny amount of people do all that stuff anyway.
I'm going to point this question to Kerr because I feel I want to get her opinion. She's been a little bit quiet, so I'm going to be mean here. What do you feel about people being labeled as a gamer girl, or how that tag is on certain female players? It's just all people just saying, oh, it's a gamer girl. You don't see gamer guy, right? You don't see gamer boy.
Just gamer, right?
Yeah.
It's just a label with stereotypes. I mean, what else is it?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not gonna personally go around and call myself I'm a gamer girl. just say I play games.
Yeah.
It's weird.
Yeah. Do you guys feel anything about the tag gamer girl, or does it not matter to you?
Well, I think that it's only like it's bad just in the sense that it's mostly used as a way to like put you down, right? Like if it wasn't used that way, I don't think that the label itself that there's something wrong with it, but that it's usually used in the context of calling you trash or like saying that you're bad or that you don't actually like games. You're just sitting in front of a camera and look good, so you can't possibly like what you're doing.
I always,
yeah.
I saw that as I never heard of it as being negative. Maybe I was blind to it. I always heard of it as like, oh, she has these qualities. Oh, I want to date a gamer girl, right? And that's the kind of things that I thought it was being used as, but I might misperceived it.
Yeah, I feel like I don't know. It can be perceived in a lot of different ways. It all depends on the context, I think, because like sometimes it's really cringy, sometimes it's really mean, like sometimes it's not any of those things. Like sometimes it can be a good thing. Like I feel like
yeah, another way of seeing it is like a female herself will profess that she's a gamer girl because she wants it's hard to describe, I guess.
Because it's an advertisement to get people to come. You're just like, oh, gamer girl, right?
In a way, it's like you have like pictures in your head of what that would be, and so in a way, that's creating like an in group. If that makes
sense. In group.
In group of this is my definition of my identity.
You know, it's funny. Even though there's not like a gamer bully thing, I was with a group of people randomly doing something and. I didn't know these people. We were having a conversation, and they looked at me and they're like, yeah, you look like you play video games. I'm like, what the fuck is that supposed to mean?
You fucking nerd.
Am I too pale? Am I pale? Am I just like weak looking? Like, what does that mean?
Very scrawny.
Yeah, it's like.
Frosty, can we talk about the language you just used to describe gamers?
Oh, Jesus. Okay. All right. We probably have enough time for maybe a couple more questions here, so I'm gonna have to pick a couple and not get all of them here. No.
No.
Sorry, I have to kind of read this first too. Well, I mean, this is kind of related. They were talking about. So they said the majority of the show we given a lot of examples about WoW and other games, and we kind of went over this a little bit, but it might be good just to clarify it. They were curious if these experiences are still present in Final Fantasy XIV specifically.
Which experiences? Like,
yeah,
the examples we used for WoW, I think, and
like applying to a raid group.
Right.
So I don't know if I have cheat codes, but so when I started playing Final Fantasy again, this was after I had quit and like sworn off MMOs forever. When I came back to play in an MMO setting and play Final Fantasy, I was like, I'm not raiding. I'm not about that life anymore. I'm done. I don't care, etc. So I went into the game like looking for people that I know would like love and accept me for whoever I was, as cheesy as that sounds. And so I eventually found those people. It took like an expansion and a half, but now I'm with this raid group that I still have that competitive mindset, those that like goal that I want to do well, and I want to clear stuff really quickly and then not touch the game after I clear it times or whatever. But it took a long time where I put myself in a position where I didn't have to deal with that shit anymore. You know, like I haven't applied in the last 5 years. It's always been I'm part of the core that is looking for people. And I don't know if I did that to sort of avoid. And I will say that right now, if we were to disband, I would be absolutely fucking terrified to apply. Mostly because people obviously like have this negative viewpoint of me already. So if I could apply anonymously to a guild, maybe that would be better. Because now it's not an issue of like me being a girl. It's also an issue of me being a content creator or a streamer. And so I don't think I could survive, honestly. Because again, it might not be like that, obviously, but I do have that fear of having to go through those obstacles, knowing that I don't deserve to go through that type of treatment, you know? But yeah, cheat codes, because I just like stay away from that type of position.
Okay. I'm in the same boat, like with my raid team. I've just kind of stuck with them because there is a lot of stuff that like there's a lot of baggage that comes with streaming where people like, you know, you need to let them know this is going to be streamed, and there's just, I don't know, there's a lot of stuff. So it's weird like going into a different group and then like bringing all that with you. It's intimidating, on top of the whole like, I mean, we talked about the whole, you know, going into a voice chat scenario and people immediately like passing judgment just based on like if, you know, they hear your voice or whatever. So it's on top of that, it's like it's a whole mess.
Mm-hmm.
I think that that the community, like within Final Fantasy specifically, is a lot better than most MMOs. I do think that it's better, but I don't think that the issue like doesn't exist. But I'm in kind of the same situation where I have kind of been in a position since A Realm Reborn where I've been like the recruiting officer, and I don't know if that just kind of happened after all the experiences before like playing WoW, where it's just like I want to be in this position, so I don't have to deal with this anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I mean, like, I honestly, that's why I did raid leader stuff, is because I'll say who gets to join my group. I don't have to worry about joining someone else's group. Although it has its own issues to deal with, all the internal drama of raid leading and everything else, and
Well, we were trying to raid together, and
yeah,
that made it difficult to apply. So.
Yeah, and I mean that's the main reason, because I wanted to play in a raid with Kerr, and I was like, well, we both have to join the same group, and then there's a stigma about couples raiding, right? It's so insane. But
our raid group is 2 couples.
Oh yeah?
One of them's married now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice. Yeah. People have. I didn't want to deal with that, and in the end, I feel like it worked out pretty well, because I have friends, or I get to choose who I'm playing with, and I get to choose them. I choose people by personality a lot of the time, to be honest. It really doesn't come down to their skill, because I feel like it does sometimes if they don't improve, but most of the time it came with, can I stand being in a voice chat with this person for 3 hours to do raid and do this content? But Kerr and I have always played at kind of a casual level at this game. I'll ask one more question here. There's a lot more, but I want to just hit this last one because we do have to sign off. Being male, it's hard to tell, but do you feel like things have gotten better as far as gender inequality overall? I don't personally see it as much, but that could be the communities I choose to surround myself with.
Yes, but that could also be me surrounding myself with certain people. In some aspects, yes, it's gotten a lot better. But in some aspects, no. It just depends on the person, honestly, and how much awareness they have.
Ms. Sophie?
Do you want to go first? I mean, I can go.
Sorry, I should just said one name. I don't know why.
Yeah. Way to confuse us.
Yeah.
You have to be careful with our tiny women brains. Kidding.
Oh, God.
But I'm quitting. Sorry, I tend to joke around a lot.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Okay, so I will say that I do think it is better, but I don't know if it's better because people have gotten better, or I've just gotten older, and the crowd that I like, or like the people that I'm with, have also gotten older and gotten more mature about it, and that's why it's better. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Like, I don't really hang out with like 15, 16, 17-year-olds. You know, I don't play Fortnite, so I'm kidding.
No, it's true.
I do play Fortnite, but I can't really speak for that demographic and how they act anymore, because I'm not part of it anymore, right? So for me, I feel like people in my age group, it is better. Like, people are a lot more accepting. When I do like party finder groups, I think for the most part, I think I get people that are like mid-20s to mid-30s, etc. And then there's Soli, who's like 80 years old. And they're all accepting of one another. I've never really had problems in my own party finder groups that I provided Discord for. I've never had issues with people acting like that. You know, I'm like ready to fight if people do act like that, but I've never had to like actually fight about it. So that alone, I feel like, is enough evidence for me to say, yes, I think it's improved, but I don't know the reason why, you know?
Okay. Sophie?
Yeah, I kind of have a similar experience with it's hard to tell because I've grown up a lot since I started streaming, and the people I've surrounded myself with have been more like, I don't know, I'm just better at like kind of moderating the content that I consume. So I don't tend to indulge in the worst parts of things very often because it can be very draining. So it's hard for me to really make a comment on how I feel like things are now or how they were as opposed to how they are now.
Okay. Billy, you seem to agree.
Yeah, I agree. I think that things have gotten better, but also, like, same as everyone else, I personally try to surround myself with, like, positive things. Like, I don't wanna make myself upset every day, so I'm sure, like, there's probably, like, a lot of terrible things still being said or thought or whatever, but I think it's better.
Okay.
What you said just actually made me think of something that I think is important to touch on, at least before we end.
Yeah.
So us, like basically all of us have admitted or said that we choose not to put ourselves in positions where that may be a problem, right? And I think that in a sense works because I think the reason that a lot of people are sexist or the whole anonymity of the internet making you a dick on Reddit or Twitter or whatever, the reason that people act like that is because they don't have that instant negative feedback loop that you would get in real life. So if you act like that, like if you come up to me in real life and are like, yo, Mizzteq, you fucking suck, like you totally got carried in ultimate, whatever, like I would literally laugh at you, and like the instant negative feedback that you get from me would tell you, okay, maybe that wasn't such a great thing to say, like maybe there's something wrong. Or, you know, like going up to someone in a public space and being like, oh, you're only popular because of your boobs, like, you know, I think a lot of people on the internet don't have that negative, like that instant negative feedback, especially on Reddit, especially YouTube comments. Not so much on stream, because obviously you'll have stream chat and the streamer respond to you. And I think that keeping ourselves away from the situations or removing ourselves from situations when they come up and like instantly showing someone that that's not okay, I'm not going to fucking put up with that shit, I'm leaving, and you're going to be by yourself and alone and whatever. I think that's enough of like a negative feedback loop for them to be like, oh, like maybe I did something wrong. I don't want to be alone. I want friends in the game. Maybe I should like, you know, figure out what I'm doing wrong. Like maybe there's something with my behavior that I should change so that this doesn't happen again, right? So maybe in a sense, like us changing what we allow or what we put up with is slowly teaching other people or teaching those specific people that, okay, maybe it's not okay to say shit like that, or maybe it's not okay to do that. And then slowly over time, it just becomes normal to not be a dick, which I think would be the easiest thing to do. But
yeah. All right. Those excellent way to finish the show here. Well, I mean, we do have to wrap it up. I do have some, I have to make one errand before I go to work tonight, which is like 35 minutes. But that being said, I want to say thank you to everyone. You guys coming on the show has been a wonderful thing. I'm glad we had this, and I hope that other people out there understand that we need to have these conversations and not be afraid of it, because it's healthy. If you don't want to be an offensive asshole, you need to find out how, right? You need to go out there and have the conversation on what makes sense and logically figure this stuff out. And if you just separate yourself from it and just don't say anything, you're not going to ever progress. And it's important to always try to progress in some way. To finish up here, I'd like everyone to say maybe whatever might be the last bits they want to say on their mind and just where they can find you. And I'll go clockwise again here. So that means I'll start here with Mizzteq.
the pressure.
Yeah.
So adding on to what you said, I would say don't be afraid to have those conversations. And at the same time, if you are having a conversation with someone that might overstep the boundary, or, you know, maybe say something that you might consider wrong or offensive, give them the benefit of the doubt. I know that everyone is super cynical nowadays. You know, the world sucks. I get it. But try to like continue the conversation instead of just being like, I'm done with you, whatever. Try to help someone get better. Don't just let them fester in their badness or in their horrible attitude or whatever. I know, like sometimes you'll do that and nothing will come of it, whatever. At least you've tried to sort of steer them in a way. And then if they still keep doing it, then they're not worth having in your life. Cut that shit out. So I feel like, yes, it's important for each one of us to recognize that maybe we do have these biases. Maybe we do tend to change our behavior based on who we're talking to. But at the same time, try to help each other, I guess, learn from it, if that makes sense. This is like going straight cheese street or whatever, but I think it's a two-way street. Like, it's not just, I'm going to, be this person. I think you need to also accept that other people can change and learn from their behaviors, and to not just like stonewall people from not getting better. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. No, it's good.
Anyway.
So make sure,
Also,
yeah.
Sneak in game energy. Amazing.
Sneak it in there. Yeah. But where can people find you if they need to find you?
Find me almost every day, twitch.tv/mtqcapture. Also on Twitter, 24/7 or 25/7. Apparently there's 24 hours in the day. I don't know if you guys caught that I said that.
I saw it, and I thought that was, on point.
I said people or hardcore raiders raid 25 hours a day or more. Yeah, I'm an idiot. youtube.com/mtqcapture, basically anywhere on Discord, etc. You know where to find me.
I'm gonna be honest, I thought it was intentionally said 25 just to, how some people say that to like
yeah, let's go with that.
Yeah.
I totally plan to say that.
Yeah. All right, Kerr.
I guess in general, just be a nice person. That's basically what we're trying to say. If you keep getting called an asshole over and over, maybe look into like what you're saying. But you're probably not watching this anyway, so it doesn't matter. Anyways, you can find me on Twitter at is Kerora, ISKERORA, and then that's basically it.
Okay. Spofie.
I guess since we're doing some like final words on it, I think the biggest thing that I would add is just remember that people are people. They're human. They're not like robot cats behind computers that are just like, especially streamers, video game people, whatever, whoever you're talking to, that's like a human. They're gonna make mistakes. They're gonna get emotional. They could do all sorts of stuff. But at the end of the day, like just giving someone a chance to like actually talk and like have a dialogue and do human type things is generally for the best. Also, you can find me at Spofie. It's right, I don't know, somewhere.
Yeah, you had it right the first time, sorry.
Somewhere.
Yeah.
And then on Twitter at Spofie with 2 E's, because Spofie with 1 E is taken. So yeah.
Okay. Shili.
I just want to say that I'm really glad that you decided to put together this talk. I was kind of scared at first, but I feel really good now, and I hope that everyone watching feels good too and has all learned a little something about each other. We can all be friends.
Absolutely.
But yeah, I guess that's all I want to say. You can find me at twitch.tv/chilibean, and my Twitter is the same thing except with an 8 at the end because someone took Chilibean and I'm not cool enough to get their account removed. So there's an 8 there. Okay. I don't stream Final Fantasy anymore. I mostly just stream like random games, but maybe I've been thinking about maybe getting back into streaming Final Fantasy with Shadowbringers. So maybe.
Okay.
Please look forward to it.
Yeah. Well, thank you everybody for coming on. Again, you guys have been amazing. I'm really glad we had this conversation. It felt really good. I hope it felt great overall for everybody watching the show. And of course, you guys being on the show. I'm really glad we could go over these topics, and I feel like we just avoid it too often. That all being said, I'm not sure of the topic next week, but I'm pretty sure we're going to be having a show next week as well. And it depends on what happens with Twitter, maybe. I don't know. But guys, remember to be good to each other, treat each other right. And we will be hosting somebody shortly. I want to go ahead and do a quick shout out to Andre Kane for allowing me to use his intro music at the beginning and the end of the show. Also, Blizana, who I've used his layout for forever and just manipulated in multiple different ways. Of course, Kerr for being my emotional support constantly. I always have to thank her because if I wasn't mentally stable, I wouldn't be able to do this show. She definitely helps with that. And yeah, I think that's it. Guys, remember, be good, keep cool, and stay frosty. Hey, if I ever smile and wave, like that was actually funny. Okay.